Sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. We are having some technical issues with some of our staff planners calling in, so we are trying to work on that, and we will get started here shortly. Thank you. Okay, everyone, the technical issues are getting resolved. We have most of the people on, but still waiting on a couple more. So should be able to get started here in a couple of minutes. Thanks. Okay, everyone, we are still working on a couple of things, but getting close. And I would say that we changed our meeting time in December from 4 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So we're still doing a lot better than we would have been. We're about 11 minutes, 12 minutes behind right now, but I think we're getting close to get started. So thanks for your patience, and we'll be on soon. Okay, everyone. Again, welcome. It's about 15 minutes after 2, and we do apologize for that delay. I believe if we can unmute our acting chair today, I'll go ahead and announce that our chair, Ms. Joyce Cox, is not joining us today. So our vice chair, Ms. Cindy Tucker, will be hosting us as a chair today. So if we can unmute Chair Tucker, we will get started.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Can you hear me?
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Hey. Good afternoon.
Hey.
Thank you.
Okay. Knock, knock. That's the gavel. Okay. Good afternoon. The Memphis Landmarks Commission is hereby called to order for its regularly scheduled meeting of January the 28th, 2021. My name is Cindy Tucker, and I am the co-chair of the commission. Mr. Brett Ragsdale serves as the executive secretary of the commission. Mr. Ragsdale, may I get a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Doss, Ms. Love,
Here.
Ms. Payne,
Here.
Ms. Strong,
Here.
Mr. Warren,
Here, sorry.
Mr. Gill,
Present.
and Ms. Doss again. I'll try her. Okay. Well, we have a quorum. Oh, thank you.
Ms. Doss is
All right.
present.
Thank you. All right, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. The Memphis Landmarks Commission and the local historic district provisions are established to ensure preservation of structures that are of historic value to Memphis. Our function is to preserve significant resources, enhance community pride, and foster civic beauty, and ensure compatibility within designated historic districts. The Commission is authorized to review projects and determine their appropriateness based on the design review guidelines. At this time, I would like to swear in the staff. Y'all ready? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think there was one change to the minutes. Has that been done?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that was corrected,
Okay.
and it was sent out to the commissioners
Okay.
earlier.
I thought I saw it come through, but I just didn't open it. Okay, then may I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last month's meeting? From one of the commissioners?
Sure, this is Commissioner Warren. I move to approve the minutes from last month's December meeting.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, just signify by saying yes or aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Let's see, I hadn't done this before, so I'm fumbling. Mr. Secretary, please provide a secretary's report.
Yes, Madam Chair, and you're doing great. So we'll definitely work together on this and get through it. So I do have a few announcements this afternoon. First, I'll just give a quick update on what we accomplished in 2020. Just a really brief annual kind of report on what we reviewed. So we had 175 applications for certificates of appropriateness that we reviewed, and out of those 175, 164 COAs were granted. So it was a pretty hefty year, a lot of cases and a lot of great work, so appreciate that from everyone. And I believe I've done this in the past. We do have some new commissioners, and if I did not thank two of our commissioners, I just want to go ahead and do it again. It's always good to recognize people who've given their service more than once even. So Miss Allison England and Mr. Neil Prosser, their terms expired this year, and so we wanted to thank them for all their service and hard work for the commission. We did recognize and welcome our two newest commissioners, Miss Margot Payne and Miss Joyce Selena Love previously. And so we also, you may have noticed in the roll call, there was a new name if everyone is familiar with the commission, and that is Mr. Brown Gill, and we want to welcome him and appreciate his offer to serve with us on the commission. And we look forward to working with you, Brown, in the future. And Brown is actually also a member of the Land Use Control Board, and that is a specific kind of requirement by the Tennessee Code Annotated that gives the landmarks commissions throughout the state their authority and the guidelines that they should operate under. And one of the specifics is that they will have a member of their local land use control board also be on the landmarks commission and be a liaison. So Brown is on the land use control board and will be that liaison and serve on the commission with us. And so he is actually replacing one of our your fellow commissioners who has served 2 terms on the Land Use Control Board at least, as well as 2 terms on the Memphis Landmarks Commission, and that's Mr. Rob Norcross. And so I want to join everyone. I know that Chair Cox and Vice Chair Tucker would speak on behalf of them, I hope, and also the rest of the commissioners, that we really appreciate all of Rob's hard work and dedication to the city. And as a fellow architect, I will say that Rob is one of the most respected architects in the city and has given not just to these two boards and commissions, but just the city in general as far as design and his dedication. So we want to thank Rob for sure. So, and with that, Madam Chair, I believe that's all.
Okay. Looking at this new script, do we go to the approval of consent agenda? Do you explain?
I do apologize. I go into the procedure, and I'll just go ahead and go through the procedures of the meeting at this point, and we will do that. So, so I will read the procedures for the meeting. The procedure for this meeting will be as follows. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. For each case, staff with the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, the commission will hear first from those speakers in support of the application, then from those speakers in opposition to the application, and speakers will have 3 minutes each. And then finally, the applicant will have 3 minutes to provide rebuttal. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the commission. The chairwoman may provide additional time provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. All parties who wish to provide testimony to the commission will be sworn in by the chairwoman. We have a number of speakers who informed the staff prior to the meeting about their wish to provide statements during the meeting, and we will hear testimonies from those who have joined our telephonic meeting today. I will call on each speaker when it's their turn to deliver their statement. After all parties have been heard, the commission will close the public hearing, make a motion, and then deliberate on the case. All motions by the commission will be made in the affirmative. The bylaws governing the commission require the affirmative vote of a majority of the attending members to approve an application, regardless of the number of commission members present. The commission may also vote to hold an application for a period of 30 days. Madam Chair, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified, and this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this point, the commission will establish a consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the secretary will call out each eligible case. Once the consent agenda is established, the commission will vote on all cases placed on the consent agenda as a whole and will not hold individual public hearings on each case. Mr. Secretary, which items on our agenda are eligible to be placed on consent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will list the items on the agenda. I also want to mention one slight change to the agenda. We have in the past adopted a resolution for telephonic meetings that go in line with the governor's act for COVID-19 response. And so we want to, that expired in December, so we want to adopt a telephonic resolution to extend that for 2 additional meetings because the governor's really expires on February 27th, I believe. So that will be on consent as well. So it's extending for 2 additional meetings, the January and February meetings. And in addition to that, the agenda items are item number 4, MLC 20-147, 1076 Bruce Street, Cooper Young Historic District. Item number 5, CLA 2021-002, 323 Williford Street, Leas Woods Historic District. And that is with 2 friendly amendments that I would like to add. Amendment number 1 is that condition number 3 will be revised to say all windows on front and side elevations, left and right, shall be consistent with the same style of divided lights, if any. And we want to add a condition 4 to read, the front yard sidewalk shall lead directly to the street from the front entrance door. The next item is item number 7, CLA 2021-005, 1692 Euclid Avenue, the Roselle Ansdale Historic District. Item number 9, CLA 2021-010, 1000 South Cooper Young Historic District. Item number 11, COA 2021-012, 529 South Main Street Historic District. Item number 12, COA 2021-014, 107 South Main Street, KSO Peabody Historic District. And item number 13, COA 2021-015, 545 Stonewall Street, the Evergreen Historic District. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as established by the secretary?
This is Commissioner Moore. Motion.
Okay, I'd like to remind the commission that by voting on the consent agenda, he or she affirms that he or she has read the staff report and is in full agreement with the conditions. Mr. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Yes, Madam Chair, and I just want to confirm that there were a few people that made the motion, and I believe that I heard first Commissioner Strong. Commissioner Strong, if you could confirm that.
No, that was not me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Doss. Commissioner Doss.
Doss, okay,
yes.
Thank you. And also, Madam Chair, we need a second. Yes.
I second. This is Commissioner Warren.
Thank you. And I will proceed with the roll call. Ms. Doss?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Payne?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
Yes.
And Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries. And I would
Thank
like
you.
to remind everyone as well, Chair Tucker, but that if your item was on consent, it was just approved, then you do not need to stay on the phone, and we will be in touch with you, and the item was approved. So if you have any questions about that, let us know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this point, I would like to state that the minor COA applications as listed on the agenda have been reviewed and approved by the commission. The commission will now continue with the regular hearing of the major COA applications as listed on the agenda. Mr. Secretary, please call the first case of the regular agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, it's item number 1, MLC 20-039, 1313 Faxon Avenue, Speedway Terrace Historic District.
Okay. Is the applicant present?
And it may take us a minute to unmute, but
Sure.
We're here.
Okay, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, can you state your name and address for the record?
We got Martin Terry, 1220 Snowden Avenue, Memphis, Tennessee, 38107.
Okay. Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Have you read the staff report?
I have.
Do you agree with the staff report and its conditions?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Secretary, do we have any opposition present?
yes, we do.
Okay. Then do we need to, does any of the commissioners would like to hear the staff report?
This is Commissioner Strong. I would like to hear the staff report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Brian Bacchus with the Division of Planning and Development Landmarks Section. This is a COA that has come before you before with a similar style architectural single-family home to be constructed. However, the application, that COA was denied by a vote of 3-3, which was a tie vote, which is really a rejection at our, I believe, October meeting. This information is in your staff report. Here's a rear departmental comments. So this COA is for a new two-story primary structure, also for site improvements for private walkways and rear parking and a rear drive. The applicant design is located at the south side of Faxon Avenue, just east of North Claybrook in the Speedway Terrace Historic District. The zoning of the property, as you see on the screen, is residential urban 1, which is a two-family dwelling district. The next slide shows a site map, how this lot aligns with the other homes along the street, and the zoning of the site is, the land use of the site is primarily single family. This and this is the site plan that shows the location of the site on the lot, of the property on the lot, with setbacks in accordance with the front yard. However, those will be verified with the conditions. Next slide, please. The side yard setback, there's been some issues regarding whether or not this is a legal non-conforming lot. We know that it is. It was created in 1984. Our zoning code allows for anything prior to, it was created prior to March 1st, 1989. So what's before you today is a two-story dwelling with the two-story backed up against the front facade. Setback not as exactly where we would like for it to be, and those were our recommendations to the architect. However, the applicant has come back to us with a similar design with the second floor setback approximately 8 feet from the front facade. So this is the 3D dimension and a front elevation of that structure. It's primarily 6-inch horizontal siding with corner boards to match, and also 4 columns on the front porch, which is a full width front porch. This is consistent with historic designs in the neighborhood. Next slide, please. This is, we reviewed the application in accordance with the historic design guidelines of Speedway Terrace. So we think that the conclusions, it meets the guidelines for the architectural details, the additional guidelines in all these sections. I will not read this to you, however, it's in your staff report. Probably the only design is the guideline it doesn't meet is massing and scale. However, we've tried to work with the applicant to try to have them set that front facade to lessen the impact of the massing along the street. Next slide, please. And the conditions are listed here on the slide. They're pretty straightforward. So we're recommending approval with 4 conditions. And we do have opposition, and we've had several emails in opposition, and we've tried to contact individuals in opposition to this so they can be on the call as well. Madam Chairman, that's all I have at this point. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? Okay. Okay, now does the applicant have a presentation?
No presentation, so we have to hold it another month. That was my only question.
Okay. Do the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Okay. I think, Mr. Secretary, do we go from here to call the support and opposition?
Yes, Madam Chair. And if we can, since Mr. Jeffrey Penzis has the master list of speakers and is controlling who is on mute and is not, I
Sure.
think we can just go directly to him, and he can help guide us through any. I don't believe we have any support, but we do have some people in opposition, and I don't know that we have all of them on the phone. So, Mr. Penzis, if you could guide us, and we could start with Miss Hazelton, Miss Cheryl Hazelton. I believe she may be on.
8 months.
Ms. Hazelton, are you there? Is she there? Is
Okay,
Ms.
Ms.
Hazelton?
Hazelton.
I had her marked as here, but I'm not seeing her right now. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Or maybe Mr. Gillis. If not, we can go to one of the others that is on in opposition.
Okay, let's go to Holly Folkers.
Hey, is she there?
Hi, this is Holly, and I do oppose this, but I was not planning on
Hold it.
speaking on this matter.
Okay.
They just named it.
Okay, so we don't need Holly to swear in, so.
No, we will see if there is another.
It's a joke.
Okay, we're working to see if we have anyone on the line. Sometimes people call in from different numbers. Yes.
Okay.
So they get like 10 minutes to call in.
I say Cheryl Hazelton was the only one I had marked as here in opposition, but I don't see her on the call anymore.
Okay. All right, are we going to move forward?
Yes. I believe we can move forward and
Close the public hearing
yes.
portion? Okay, so we'll move forward and close the public hearing portion of this case. The commissioners, is there any further discussion from the commissioners? Questions?
I have a question. So we have to wait another month? I've been trying to get this plan approved for like 8 months. I switched my design over 3 times. It's costing money. It's costing time. So I was trying to find that out.
Sir, we're not waiting another month.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Warren.
Perry, sorry, Madam Chair. I'll try to.
Miss Hazelton did just join the call. FYI.
Okay,
Okay.
I believe we closed the public comment.
we did.
Well,
What do you want to do?
We never got a
Hello?
motion, so we never got a motion to close.
Okay.
Do we usually have a motion to close public comment? I don't think we do.
I don't have that on my, yeah, it has, may I please have a motion?
Yeah.
We don't
do.
usually have a motion for public comment.
Yeah,
I
but
don't think.
on
I
the,
don't.
this is a new script, hey guys,
So
this is a new script.
If everyone could please, Madam Chair, you and I
Yeah.
can figure this out. So, yes. You
Yes, there is a
announced we were
there is a
closing the
motion.
public porch, but we need to, we have a motion to approve, and that's when it closes the public hearing, and that's when it's discussed.
Okay, we
Okay.
did not have that motion.
Correct.
Okay,
So if
so
we,
shall we go back
so
to
if Ms.
Hazelton?
Hazelton, if Ms. Hazelton is on, we can get her on.
Hello?
She's unmuted
Hazelton?
now.
Okay, I am here.
Hazelton? Okay, hold on. Would you state your name and address?
Cheryl Hazelton, 1267 Saxon Avenue.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Okay. You can go ahead.
Okay. The major contention that our neighborhood has with this project is the size of the lot. We've had the 3 neighbors with adjoining properties have all sent letters of opposition for this project specifically based on the size of the lot. Not being an expert in the UDC, it was my understanding that this should have been sent before the Board of Adjustments because the lot width is 20 feet approximately below what contextual infill standards require. I assume Brian had just negated that, and I guess I'm not sure. Is that something I can get a yes or no on?
Hello, Brian?
Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Bacchus, if
Chair.
you,
Madam Chairman?
Yes, it was, I think someone at the beginning stated that the lot was in compliance. That's what she's asking,
Well,
is the lot truly the correct size?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm not really trying to run your meeting, but I would prefer that they can finish their comments before we can answer.
Okay. Did you have any more comments?
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners, for hearing me. Then I will go through the whole statement that we have. Commissioners, although the Commission is here to review projects according to neighborhood guidelines, it's also a part of the Land Use and Development Services. Land Use and Development Services, formerly known as OPD, processes and analyzes applications for zoning changes, subdivision of property, and certificates of appropriateness in the historic districts and other land development actions through Memphis, Shelby County. This is completely different from construction code enforcement, which actually is responsible for the building construction and granting of permits for construction. Because this hasn't been sent to the Board of Adjustments, your decision would be the final decision in whether this application could circumvent the UDC. You decide whether the accepted and approved UDC standards are followed as written or overlooked. The section of UDC that is of most importance is the area of contextual infill standards. These points are addressed in every district's guidelines and commonly noted in staff reports, but in this case, one is repeatedly being overlooked, the minimum lot width requirement. So not to distract from the one issue that is the matter of contention for the neighborhood, this will be the only point that I'm going to address. As I said, 3 neighbors with adjoining properties sent letters opposing this project specifically based on the size of the lot. The contextual infill standards intend to accommodate the majority of infill development in existing residential neighborhoods, and they've been crafted to allow an applicant and staff to look at the surrounding context for guidance in construction. These are intended to encourage reinvestment in the existing neighborhoods and reinforce the traditional character of established residential neighborhoods. The lot width requirement requires that the minimum lot width is the smaller of 1, the average width of the 4 lots on either side of the project site fronting on the same block, the 2 closest lots in either direction along the street. In this case, the average width for those 5 lots would be 56.1 feet. And the second lot width suggestion is the average of width for all lots fronting on the same block face. The average for all these lots is 54.936, which the lot in question is actually 30 feet wide, so it's approximately 20 feet narrower and those 20 feet had been sold prior to the house just to the west of this lot.
Ms. Hazelton, I just wanted to let you know you have approximately a minute left.
I got it. Thank you. We are not opposed to Mr. Perry building in our neighborhood, and we are anxious to see the work being started on the other 2 lots that he has purchased. Seeing his videos on social media, it shows he enjoys and he's excited about what he does. We just feel like this lot is not the right lot, and allowing a house on a lot this narrow would be setting a bad precedent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does any of the commissioners have a question for the speaker? Okay. And then again, the applicant has 3 minutes for rebuttal.
I don't have any rebuttal.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now I'll close the public portion of the case, and the commission will further discuss. To have the commission further discuss the case, may I please get a motion?
This is Commissioner Warren. For the purposes of discussion, I move to approve case MLC 20-039.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So now we can discuss. Is there discussion from the commissioners?
Well, I would like to hear from, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, I would like to hear from Brian Bacchus regarding the status of this lot. Was this lot recently created? It sounded like it was created in the 1980s and has been found to be legal non-conforming.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, Commissioner Warren. This lot is legal non-conforming. The contextual infill standards, they apply. However, not all of the standards, the contextual infill standards apply. And on top of that, we have design guidelines that also apply. So the status of the lot is legal non-conforming. That means it complies with Section 10 of our zoning code, more specifically the exempt criteria regarding the date of March 1st, 1989. This is a non-conforming lot of record. It falls under the Section 10.5 of the zoning code, and as far as side yards, more specifically 10.5.2B3 of the zoning code. And that states no side yard shall be less than 3 feet. And there are some other requirements, but they don't, there are other requirements in that section, but the lot itself meets those requirements. And the non-conforming section of the code, I know we really shouldn't be getting into the zoning code, but the non-conforming section of the code allows for irregular size, irregular shapes, irregular widths, irregular depths of lots to be built on in the event that they do not meet the zoning, the underlying zoning or the zoning district. There are, and Mr. Whitehead could expound on this for probably an hour regarding lots that are non-conforming in the inner city, especially within the Beltway. These are difficulties, what we call practical difficulties, that exist in a lot of these older subdivisions. And if the lot predates the 1989 code, then it's a legal non-conforming lot. Therefore, it can be built upon if it meets the non-conforming section of the zoning code for design standards. And I know that's a long answer for a short question, but we want to make it clear that you can build on this lot even though it's non-conforming.
Thank you. With that, I have a few architectural comments of architectural nature on this design, and I've read the letters of opposition. A lot of them are concerned about massing. I have some concerns about the massing. However, I want to start by thanking the applicant for working with the process and making the effort and expense of revising their design. As a note to our fellow commissioners, I see two-story houses in the vicinity on Paxson. It's certainly not the norm, but there are two-story houses at, I'm going to tell you some quick addresses: 1331, 1373, 1375, 1380, 1475, 1438. So I personally don't have any concerns about the fact that this is a two-story house. I do have some concerns about the roof slope. There's really no reason to have such a steep 9 and 12 roof slope, and I would like to propose a condition of approval that the roof slope be reduced from 9 and 12 to 6 and 12, or possibly 5 and 12. That will accomplish a couple of things. It will drop the porch roof below the soffit line. It's a little awkward, it's more than a little awkward how their roof is colliding with the gutter. I know how these software works. It's an easy thing to run into, but we don't want to build it that way, in my opinion. And also changing the roof slope from 9 and 12 to 5 and 12 or 6 and 12 will reduce the overall height. That's an attic above the second floor. It's not habitable space. And lastly, I would propose we add a couple of small windows on the front of the house. It's pretty common to see a little square accent window on the left and right to fill some of that empty wall space on the second floor that is facing the street. There is a stairwell there and a bedroom, and I feel like a small 18 by 18 or 24 by 24 inch window would work both on the outside and the inside. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you. Any other discussion?
This is Commissioner Love. I had similar suggestions as Commissioner Warren had, coming from an architectural background. I agree with him with it having the slope reduced, but I was also in line with the conversation of the massing. And in my mind, just to help it tie more into that, the street, the neighborhood, perhaps that front slope could not be a hip roof and align itself a little bit more to it being a gable with the windows in the front, and then perhaps even having the possibility of dropping that second floor down to where maybe that knee height is now going to be more of that bearing truss of the wall. So perhaps also knocking a little bit more feet off the height. So those are two things, along with what Commissioner Warren said, that I thought might help get this more in line with the way the neighborhood wants to have it fit its aesthetic.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay.
This is Commissioner Payne. Sorry if I say it real quick. I agree. I mean, I think the size of this lot is unfortunate, and I can't imagine a house fitting there. However, if it is legal and their construction will proceed there, I think this is a good opportunity to have something that really complements the neighborhood. And I agree with the suggestions by Commissioner Warren and Commissioner Love to help it fit better in the context of the street.
Okay, any more? Okay, Commissioner Warren, did you want to update your motion?
Sure. If Commissioner Love, would you be willing? Well, let me further the discussion slightly. Commissioner Love, would you be willing to vote for my motion? I didn't quite understand the second point you made.
I would.
Okay.
The second point, yeah, dropping it, dropping the back floor, maybe instead of that roof line. Yeah, all of that.
I don't want to leave any good ideas behind, but I move that we propose. I move to approve case 20-039, subject to staff recommendations, with the additional recommendations of reducing the roof slope from 9 and 12 to either 5 and 12 or 6 and 12, as the applicant and staff see fit, for both the porch roof and the main roof of the second floor. And furthermore, the addition of a square window of either the size 18 by 18 or 24 by 24 on each side of the house, as described in previous conversation. Size subject to the applicant and staff's working that out. That's my motion.
Could I have a second?
I second.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, can we have a roll call vote?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Doss?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
No.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Ms. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Could you call the next case?
Yes,
Hello?
Madam Chair. The next case is item number 2, MLC 20-116, 1189 Snowden Avenue, Speedway Terrace Historic District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Could you state your name and address?
Terry Jones, 1189 Snowden Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Have you had a chance to read the staff report?
Yes, I have.
Do you agree with the staff report and its conditions?
I really didn't quite understand it. So could somebody explain it to me?
Okay. Mr. Secretary, do we need to have someone present it or explain it to her?
I believe, Mr. Bogus, we will have a presentation on this anyway, because there is opposition. So
Okay.
I think.
Hello?
Okay, there was.
I'm still here.
So.
I'm here.
Yes. I believe what we might do is let's move to the next case, allow Mr. Bacchus an opportunity to discuss brief as quickly as possible. What do you think, Mr. Bacchus? Is that?
I'm here, Brett. I was just waiting to see which direction we were going to go.
Right. I'm just wondering if you think maybe we
I think we need to swear in the applicant.
We did.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
So
That's okay.
I'll proceed with a presentation, and I'll try and answer her concerns about the conditions. And she's probably thinking about the ones that were approved yesterday. So anyway, Brian Bacchus, Division of Planning and Development, Landmark Section. This is a retroactive COA. The applicant has installed a 6-foot chain link fence in the front yard of the home at 1189 Snowden Avenue. It's on the south side of Snowden. This property, as you notice on the zoning map, is in a commercial mixed-use district. The zoning line is adjacent to her lot, which she also owns, the adjacent vacant lot at 1191 Snowden Avenue. The zoning beyond that is RU3, which is multifamily zoning, but it's in a historic district. The applicant is proposing to maintain the existing chain link fence for a period of time to allow her an opportunity to construct a fence that is more compatible to the district and also to residential character, and more so to comply with the Speedway Terrace guidelines. Next slide, please. This application is before you due to the fact that Ms. Jones was issued a citation regarding the fence. The zoning, as you can see, the land use, as you can see, is primarily single-family homes with spots of duplex residential and quadruplexes throughout the district. This is 1189 is also zoned CMU3. Next slide, please. This application came before the Board of Adjustment on yesterday, and they approved this application, I believe, by a vote of 8-0 for the applicant to maintain a fence in the front yard of this principal structure at 1189 Snowden, which is a contributing structure to the district. And the applicant is in the position to try and preserve and maintain the structure in its present form to not have to for further deterioration. So we're before you, or she's before you today, to allow a 6-foot chain link fence to remain for a period of 15 months as approved by the Board of Adjustment. The next slide, please. This application for staff analysis regarding fencing. The site this site plan is primarily a preliminary site plan based upon the approval of, in the event that the Board of Adjustment approves it. In the event that the Landmarks Commission approves it, then the site plan will be changed to comply with what's approved by both bodies. So what we have here is photos, and these are in your packet regarding the location of the fence relative to the home. There are a set of gates at the private drive, and the 6-foot chain link fence surrounds both lots, extends to the rear yard. So the applicant does have an existing legal non-conforming chain link fence in the rear yard, which was allowed prior to 2010. So we're here today or she's here today to allow this fence to remain. Next slide, please. In its current position for that period of time, to allow for the removal and to comply with the zoning code as well as Landmarks District regulations for Speedway Terrace. This gives you photos of the site. As you can see, the upper left is the left side, the east side yard of the vacant lot. The upper right photo is the entrance to the property, double gate. And the lower left photo is the view along the street looking west. And the lower right photo is another view along the west property line. As you can see, adjacent to the property, the commercial building has installed a 7-foot chain link fence as well. Next slide, please. So this site improvement will be retroactive based on your approval today. However, the new fence will comply with the zoning code and whatever the board sees fit to approve today. This is a view looking southeast from North Bellevue. This is almost in the interstate right-of-way area. The 2-story home, I guess it's blue-gray, 2-story, 4-square home is the subject property, and you can see the transition in the fencing along that Snowden that goes around and surrounds, that extends south to North Parkway. This property is directly adjacent to a commercial building, vehicle service facility. It's directly across the street from a gasoline sales convenience store. So it's in a difficult situation, and the applicant is proposing to safeguard our property with the installation or to maintain this current fence, and also to install a new fence to comply with the residential character of the area, and also the Speedway Terrace District design guidelines. Next slide, please. So we're recommending approval of the application with 3 conditions, and I won't read those conditions for you, but as far as the guidelines, complying with the guidelines, the fencing along the rear yard fencing, yes. The fencing in the front yard, no. The front yard fencing, preferred materials, no. The chain link fencing or vinyl, yes. The fence is currently inappropriate. So we're in a position to recommend approval of the application based on the current status of the property, and also to have the applicant comply with the Speedway Terrace District guidelines. So our main goal here is preservation. So we're trying to preserve a property that was constructed in 1902. This applicant, my understanding, has told me that this is her family home. She's trying to preserve it in its current state. It could be worse. This is in a commercial district. And so we're looking at a situation where either we try to maintain and preserve the existing home, or someone else, or it transfers into, someone converts it to a commercial property. So this is where we are. It's a difficult balance, but our balance will weigh on the side of preservation. Madam Chairman, we did have opposition, or do have opposition to this case, and I believe they're on the phone, and I'll be happy to answer any further questions that you may have for me.
Okay, thank you.
We can explain the conditions after the conversation.
Okay, thank you. I know exactly. That's the gas station I use all the time. I know exactly that house, and it is in a difficult spot. And I've admired the house for quite a long time for still being there. Because it's at Bellevue, right?
North Bellevue, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's right. I come out that way. I go to that gas station all the time. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for staff? Okay.
Yes, this is Commissioner Warren. Sorry, I was muted.
Sure.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Why was this project before the Board of Adjustment? What zoning issue? I mean, fences are allowed, and we see retroactive fence applications all the time. And if we're debating the aesthetics or style of a fence, I thought that would be a purely landmarks consideration. Was the citation what triggered a BOA case? Why did it go to the BOA?
This is Commissioner Warren, Brian Barkers. They went before the Board of Adjustment because the fence is chain link fence, and it's not permitted even in a commercial district.
I understand.
It's only permitted in industrial district.
Okay.
Since 2 years ago, I think.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff from commissioners?
Hi, this is Brown Gill. Brian, what in 15 months does this applicant have to go back to the BOA and back to landmarks, or can they just, or if they are in compliance in 15 months, I guess what's the process from code on that?
She does not have to go back before the Board of Adjustment. If she in 15 months, we will approve a revised site plan based on the conditions of approval for the Board of Adjustment, and also the conditions of approval of the landmarks in the event that you move forward with that approval. So it does not have to go back to the Board of Adjustment. The site plan, if the site plan does not comply with the conditions, it will go back before the Board of Adjustment as a correspondence application for a revised site plan. But we administratively review the site plan. Yeah, okay. It's administrative review, but if it doesn't comply, it goes back to Board of Adjustment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Does the applicant have any kind of presentation?
No, ma'am.
Okay, do the commissioners have questions for the applicant? Okay. Mr. Secretary, is it time for the opposition or support?
Yes, Madam Chair, and we don't have any support, and we have several people listed as wanting to speak in opposition, so I think we will turn this over to Mr. Penzis, and if you have someone that we can call up and check on them that's on the phone.
Yes, there are currently 2 people in opposition on the line. The first one will be Holly Fulkerson.
Okay, is she on?
Hi, this is Holly Fulkerson. I didn't want to speak on this case either.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Written comments.
You what now?
I just submitted written comments. I did not care to speak on this case.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Can we go to the next one?
Cheryl Hazelton.
Ms. Hazelton,
Hi,
are
I'm
you
here.
there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, could you state? Okay, can you state your name and address?
Cheryl Hazelton, 1267 Saxon Avenue.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. If you can continue.
Okay. As a neighborhood representative, the consensus, actually, everybody that has put input in is against this and would like to see the fence removed and put into compliance with the neighborhood guidelines. The basis of that is because the owners of both the properties have been given 4 notices during the time that the neighborhood has gone through historic district status. And I would also like to speak as a resident now. I listened to the Board of Adjustments meeting yesterday, and although the neighborhood doesn't agree, I think we're dealing with something that is like a what is. And I do feel like a meeting in the middle is not the worst solution. I don't know of any precedent, nor were any means of enforcing this reassessment discussed at the BOA. I don't want to create a precedent to continue allowing residents to ask for forgiveness after dismissing the neighborhood's historic zoning. So with that, I'd like to ask if the commission resolves to allow the applicant time for the fence to become compliant, that you might consider adopting some more conditions. I'd like to ask that as the Board of Adjustments agreed to allow the applicant 15 months to come into compliance, we'd like to ask that the subsequent application for the Landmarks Commission be filed no later than 13 months, which would allow them time to obtain the COA prior to construction of the new fence. Secondly, I'd like to ask that the case in environmental court that remain open until the fence meets the final requirements as set forth by BOA and whatever the Landmarks Commission agrees to. This is mostly to ensure that this case doesn't fall through the cracks because I don't see any kind of precedent that would regulate whether or not they actually come back. Lastly, I'd like to ask that if the applicant fails to meet these conditions as the commission sees fit, or if the property changes ownership prior to meeting the set conditions, that any agreements be voided and the case be sent back to Environmental Court, Board of Adjustments, and then the Landmarks Commission with the lack of compliance duly noticed. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions for the speaker? Okay. Are there any other speakers?
I don't believe there are, but okay. Thank you, Jeffrey.
What'd you say?
No, there are not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the applicant has 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you so much. First of all, this property will not be sold, never. We love this house. We've been in the neighborhood for over 40 years. We purchased it back in 1977. We want to do everything to comply with the board and the Memphis Landmark Commission. We want to keep the neighborhood looking good, and we've always done everything that we could to preserve and to fight blight. So it will be done, and it will be done properly. And because of this COVID that's going around, I'm asking that the board does not request that I go back to court for this, because we are going to comply.
Okay, thank you.
And we had no intentions not to comply.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you.
now I'll close the public meeting portion so the commission can discuss the case. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Commissioner Doss.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Hello?
Commissioner Love.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now it's open for discussion.
This is Commissioner Doss. I'd like to comment on the amendments proposed by the opposition. I'm fine with the amendments with the exception of it remaining in environmental court over the course of the 15 months. Otherwise, I think the additional amendments sound fair. And I'm willing to stand by the Board of Adjustment's decision.
Any further discussion?
This is Commissioner Warren. I'm trying to wrap my head around this property because it's 3 parcels. So I don't know. I suppose this is a question for staff, but I'm looking at a map of Speedway Terrace, and it appears to intentionally exclude this 1-story flat roof commercial building that is on Bellevue. Is that correct? So we have a new fence that's been put up in the last year, but only parts of this fence are in our jurisdiction. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Well, the only thing that's before you, Commissioner Warren, is 1189 Snowden and 1191 Snowden. The building on the corner is not within the district. It's not within the Speedway Terrace district.
Right. I'm looking at a map, on a printed map. There's not a map, to my knowledge, in the staff report of the district, but it does a stair step at the northwest corner, and one of those steps chops out the commercial property. So my comment is that I find this case really confusing and interesting. It has nothing to do with the applicant and her and the fence. We've seen dozens of fences that get put up that we don't like, that don't meet the code. That don't meet the historic guidelines. All that's fairly cut and dry. I guess what I'm curious about and a little bit skeptical of is a precedent that seems to be being set by the Board of Adjustment, proposing some arbitrary time frame to fix a non-conforming or a non-complying construction. That was why I asked, why did this case go to the Board of Adjustment? And I accept the validity of it going there because I am familiar. There are prohibitions on concertina, razor wire, and chain link fences, and so I guess there was a violation of that rule, so it went to Board of Adjustment. Now the Board of Adjustment is trying to tell us that we ought to give the applicant 15 months to build a fence that complies with historic district guideline, and I am somewhat concerned by the precedent and sort of arbitrary nature of 15 months, and I'm curious if any of my fellow commissioners have any thoughts on that matter.
This is Commissioner Doss, also a member of Board of Adjustments. I was present in the meeting yesterday. So the 15 months came about. The initial ask was for 2 years. We were trying to take into consideration Ms. Jones's budget constraints. It was initially 2 years, and it was reduced to 15 months. And the 15 months was proposed by John Jackson, who is an landscape designer. I think I said that right. And his contention was that, okay, it's cold right now, and then it's rainy. So that gives them time to kind of gather themselves because you can't do a lot of work when it's raining, particularly with the fence. So that gives them 3 months, probably till May, to start work, and then throughout the summer, and then the following year. So that was where we landed. It wasn't.
All right. Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
I suppose only in that I want to understand the conditions again, see the conditions on the presentation. They were fairly technical, the way the conditions were written.
You see them?
Yeah. So these conditions would only apply to 2 out of the 3 parcels of land because we're going to let the BOA handle the commercial property on Bellevue. So what is this saying, Brian?
Yes. Mr. Warren?
Yes.
The commercial property on the corners is not a part of this application.
That's what I'm acknowledging. So I'm reminding myself and other commissioners that your conditions of approval only relate to 2 out of 3 parcels. And I guess essentially, is it as simple as saying we're going to allow this to stand for 15 months, and within 15 months we will see a fence there that meets the neighborhood's design guidelines? In other words, it will be wrought iron or low wood fence or something like that.
If you approve it based on the Board of Adjustment approval and these conditions, then yes.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
For the sake of clarity, Mr. Bacchus, for the sake of clarity, so it's either at the end of the 15-month period, it's either the fence comes down altogether,
yes,
or it's a compliant fence, right?
That's correct. Now, it could be done in 6 months. So she has a 15-month window to do it. However, if she can do it within that 15-month time frame, the better for all. But it gives her 15 months in order to comply. That's basically what it does. To comply with the zoning code as well as Speedway Terrace Historic District guidelines. I mean, does that answer? Does that answer your question, Commissioner Dawes? Commissioner
Sorry,
Dawes?
I was on mute. Yes. Yes, I was on mute. I'm sorry. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
How about Commissioner Warren?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm ready to submit a motion for our consideration.
Okay.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, and Commissioner Warren, we have a motion from Commissioner Doss.
That's right.
That was just for discussion. Commissioner Doss did mention that she was amenable to some of the suggestions from the neighborhood representative. I was trying desperately to get all those suggestions down. I think that, so I didn't know if Commissioner Doss wanted to amend her motion to include some of those conditions.
Yes, I will amend the motion. I make a motion to approve the case. I'm sorry. It is, I was on the map. MLC number 20-116. To include the amendments proposed by, I'm sorry, I forgot the name. I didn't write down the name of opposition. With the exception of the case remaining in environmental court over the course of the 15-month window.
Okay, can I have a second?
I would need further explanation of what we're seconding. I don't know what those conditions were. I mean, I heard the opposition speak, but I think we need to repeat them.
More specific. Okay, can someone go over those, or do we need to bring her back up to repeat?
Madam Chair, I believe that if you would allow her to reiterate those conditions briefly, and we can finalize those, but that would be helpful.
Okay, can y'all pull her back up? She's still around?
I am back. Yes.
Okay. Can you repeat your amendments that you were trying to suggest?
Yes. There were actually 3 that we suggested, and one of them was to allow the applicant the 15 months to come into a compliance, but we would like to ask that the subsequent application to the Landmarks Commission be filed no later than 13 months, which would allow them time to obtain a COA prior to construction of the new fence. So that would be allowing them the full 15 months, and if they can do it sooner, that's even better. The second is we would also like to ask that the case stay in the case that they have in environmental court remain open until the fence meets the final requirements as set forth by BOA and Landmarks Commission. And this is to ensure the case does not fall through the cracks. And lastly, we'd like to ask that the applicant, if the applicant fails to meet the conditions as the commission sees fit, or the property changes ownership prior to meeting the set conditions, that any agreements be voided and the case sent back before Environmental Court, Board of Adjustments, and the Landmarks Commission with the lack of compliance duly noted. And that was all of them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, I believe if Ms. Doss would allow, I believe I can quickly succinct the motion and the amendment. I understand that the second proposed amendment by the opposition, Ms. Doss, does not agree with, so we will just have the 2. And the first is that the applicant will submit for a certificate of appropriateness within 13 months of approval of this, and that if the applicant fails to meet the conditions or the property changes ownership, that the case will be brought back to the Landmarks Commission. I believe she said Board of Adjustment, but I think that really we only have authority over the Landmarks Commission. So that would be the 2 amendments to the motion, if Ms. Doss agrees with that.
Ms. Doss, Commissioner?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Is there still room for discussion on this? Or are we voting?
Mr. Secretary, is this a vote or do we?
There's still an opportunity.
Well, I find the first condition to be unnecessary. I think if we allow for 15 months, we should trust the process that the applicant they'll have to look at a landmark schedule and meet that schedule if they want to build something. I mean, this is already a little bit convoluted with putting time frames on fixing retroactive stuff. So I would propose that the first condition is unnecessary. We just trust the process that's in place.
I'm fine with that. This is Commissioner Doss. I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
thank you.
Madam Chair, I have that one condition then, so I have that noted.
Okay, thank you. So do we have a second do you understand what you're seconding?
I second.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
seeking recognition, Brian Bacchus. Condition 1 needs to be amended as well to allow for 15 months.
Instead of the 2-year period there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't know if that was written a little while ago or not. Y'all see what he's talking about?
I do. So do we need to address that as well?
You need to amend the condition to read 15 months.
Okay. I'll make that proposal too. I'd like to amend the condition to read 15 months instead of 2 years.
Okay, Madam Chair, I believe
You got it?
Yep.
Okay. Can we call for a vote?
Yes. Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Ms. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Strong,
Yes.
Ms. Love,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
and Chair Tucker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And
Thank
Ms.
you.
I didn't, yes, Doss is yes also.
Uh-oh.
Oh, thank you.
Dawson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you call the next case?
Yes, Madam Chair. The next case is item number 6, COA 2021-004, 227 South McLean Boulevard, Central Gardens Historic District.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present? Hello?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Stephanie Summers and Britt Summers, 227 South McLean Boulevard.
Okay, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
We do.
Okay, thank you. Have you had a chance to read the staff report?
We have, yes.
Okay, do you agree with the staff report and the conditions?
We respectfully dissent.
Did you say no?
Yes, we dissent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then do we need to go to a staff presentation?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Seth Thomas will be giving us a presentation.
Okay.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Seth Thomas with the Department of Planning and Development. This case before us, COA 2021-004, is located at 227 South McLean Boulevard in the Central Gardens Historic District, right at the corner of South McLean and South McLean and Linden Avenue. And the request is site improvements for a new retaining wall, fence, and driveway. We are recommending approval with 2 conditions, I believe. The applicants are in a disagreement with one of the particular conditions, and we can go to the next slide. Here's a view from South McLean looking northwest before, and then the next slide was this is the slide as it currently exists, or the site as it currently exists, with sort of the outline of the fence already being built, as you can see from the picture. Next slide, please. So here's just the site plan showing the wooden fence is where it's going to sit on the lot. Go to the next slide. And then here's a side view of the fence. So in relation to the side yard fence that will be along Linden, there is the applicant has installed a 3-foot retaining wall, or it's existing, and what they're trying to do is do 6 feet of cedar fence, and then add 2 feet of top of that fence for an overall height of 8 feet for the side yard fence along Linden. Next slide, please. And so the applicant's provided 2 different sort of renderings of that fence. Here is the rendering with the fence that shows the 6-foot privacy fence with the 2 feet of decorative lattice all the way around, both on the rear yard and the side yard. And then if you go to the next slide, we can see that exact picture without the 2 feet of decorative lattice on the side yard fence along Linden. And we can go to the next slide. Here's some pictures of the sort of the grading of the lot and the reasoning as to why sort of that retaining wall is existing, and then also showing sort of the frame of the fence as it's currently constructed. We'll go to the next slide, please. I believe the applicant's reasoning for the fence is sort of there, right across the street from this multifamily property that sort of sits on top of sort of a slope. And the reasoning for the fence height, at least my assumption is to provide some privacy along that side street on Linden. The next slide is also just sort of showing the curb cut for the neighboring apartment building, as well as some garages that sit with the curb cuts right on Linden. And we'll go to the next slide. And so, does the project meet the district the design guidelines? So, design guidelines for Central Gardens on the fences and walls section. An appropriate fence wall may be used to define a rear or side yard. All fences and walls shall not exceed 6 feet except for a rear yard fence, or and side yard fences should be more than 6 feet, with the rear being allowed to go to 8 feet tall. So the applicant has shown examples of both a 6-foot fence and a 6-foot fence with 2 feet of decorative lattice. When code enforcement measures a fence, they include that decorative lattice as part of the overall fence height. And so it's staff's opinion that this particular request partially adheres to the Central Garden guidelines, as I believe the applicant wants a 6-foot fence with the 2 feet of decorative lattice along the side, and as well, the side yard fence is not set back 3 feet from the sidewalk, although that's not necessarily something that we as a staff have a problem with. So overall, their request is partially conforming to the Central Garden District guidelines. And so so for this project, we've received 2 letters of support. By the time this PowerPoint was published, I believe we got 2 more emails of support between this staff meeting and this morning. And we've received 1 letter of opposition. We're recommending 2 conditions. One, that the site improvements shall match option 2, to not include the decorative lattice, as that 2 feet, making it 2 feet of decorative lattice, it makes the side yard fence exceed 6 feet, and then also any change or deviation from the approved COA shall be submitted to landmarks. And we have some pictures, I believe, that were taken by the opposition that were provided in the last 2 slides, but that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? Okay. Okay, the applicant, did you have any kind of presentation that you would like to present or talk about?
Well, yes, ma'am. It's basically encompassed in these renderings that's included in the staff report. And we just have 3 brief points we'd like to make. That is the view from Linden Avenue traveling east. Our contention would be the rear privacy fence at 8 feet. There's an infill development behind our home. And so that 8-foot fence is going to be there. If the contiguous part on Linden is not at the same height, we would suggest that it's going to look like essentially a big baseball backstop, or the significant throughfare traffic traveling east on Linden. That's one contention. I would also point out the alley-like corridor on this particular part of Linden. South McLean Boulevard, as most of you know, is somewhat of a transitional area from Union Avenue to Peabody. Lots of multifamily. You've got Walgreens, a high-rise apartment complex, etc. So the heavy utility presence there through this corridor, including a large AT&T service box immediately beside our home. Our contention would be, the uniform fence all the way around our property would essentially soften the aesthetic for our neighbors, which is a big part of the motivation for our project. lastly, and maybe Seth would go back, I think in the architecture world, you guys call them elevations. The elevation of kind of what we're proposing along Linden Avenue, given the apartments across the street, it's less a privacy thing and just more of a scale thing. Our home has 12-foot ceilings on the interior. I don't know what you call the particular architectural style, but it's a one and a half story home. It is essentially tall. Okay, so we kind of contend that it's all to scale. But the primary thing again would be, do we really want our neighbors seeing a backstop in what we consider to be a disjointed and kind of half-finished product traveling east along Linden Avenue?
Okay, thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions of the applicant? Okay. Mr. Secretary, do we have any speakers for or against?
Yes, ma'am. We do have one in opposition.
Okay. Are they available?
Madam Chair, the speaker in opposition is not on the line.
Okay. They're not on the line. I mean, they're not queued up to be on. They're not anywhere. Or
They're not present in the meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Did they send a letter or? Okay. Okay.
And,
then go ahead.
So, Madam Chair, we can move on to closing the public meeting with a motion if
yeah, that's what
Commissioner is. Yes.
Okay. So I need a motion to close the public portion from a commissioner.
It's Commissioner Warren moving to approve our third case. I'm sorry, I don't have the number, for the purposes of discussion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second. Gill, second.
Okay. It's open for discussion. Is there any discussion?
Are we considering allowing the 8-foot fence or the decorative lattice at the top? Is that on the table? Are we considering that? But the reason why I'm asking is because we pass that house probably every day. I was wondering what was happening, but it seems like that it is like the fence, it starts at an elevated point, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm driving, I'm not really looking, but just in passing, it seems like it starts at an elevated point, maybe, but it just seems like the 8-foot, looking at the rendering and me passing it most days in the mornings, it seems like 8-foot makes sense, although I understand that 6 feet is the maximum allowed height. So, can someone enlighten, please?
Yes, Commissioner Dawes, I can try to elaborate on that. So we have conditioned it based on the design guidelines, which require a 6-foot fence, but the 8-foot is an option if the commission would like to consider that.
Could you put up
Secretary,
could you put the staff conditions up? Thank you.
Commissioner Warren speaking. I think that the guidelines are pretty clear that the fence should not be higher than 6 feet. And the fact that it is beginning on a retaining wall, I think, compounds the concerns about height for me. Retaining walls are kind of funny in that sense because you can build a legal fence and it seems extremely tall, but when the grade on the back of it is not visible to the public, but it's there. That's where the measurement starts. But given the site conditions, I think we especially ought to conform to the design guidelines recommendation that says here all fences and walls shall not exceed 6 feet except for the rear. So I think that what I believe is considered option B, which is a hand-drawn pencil drawing showing the lattice on the rear fence, is completely appropriate. So in summary, in my opinion, that would be a motion to approve with staff recommendations. I think that's what staff is endorsing.
Any further discussion? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Well, I think I made a motion. I'm not sure that my motion explicitly said subject to staff recommendations. So I'll amend my motion so to restate the motion, I move to approve case MLC 2021-004 subject to staff conditions.
Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Boyd, and I second that.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a roll?
Yes. Ms. Doss?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Ms. Payne?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
Yes.
Ms. Boyd?
Yes.
And Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Could we have the next?
Yes, our next case is agenda item number 8, COA 2021-008, 937 Blythe Street, Cooper Young Historic District.
Is the applicant present?
Yes, he is. Oh, hang on.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, can you state your name and address, please?
It is Paul Bayoni. I'm at, you need my, office address?
Home address?
Home address is, this is a renovation. It's 937 Blythe, but I live at 8731 Overcup in Cordova.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Have you had a chance to read the staff report?
I have.
Okay, do you approve of the conditions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. So do we have opposition to this case?
Yes, we do. So we will have a staff presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you. Item before you is a request for exterior alterations to renovate an existing second floor to raise the existing roof line of the front gable by about 6 feet to have higher ceilings and repair the existing portico share with new wooden posts and site improvements to expand the existing driveway about 5 feet towards the front yard and install a 6-foot tall site-proof wooden fence along the left property line. Subject property is located on the west side of Blythe Street, block between Nelson and Young Avenues. Next slide, please. Subject property is a contributing 1.5-story airplane bungalow built in 1920s. The Google Street View shows the existing conditions of the property. This is a view from Blythe Avenue looking northwest. Next slide, please. The applicant is proposing to renovate the front section of the existing upper story and raise the overall roof line about 6 feet to allow more headspace, repair the existing portico share with new wooden posts, expand the existing 11-foot wide driveway to accommodate 16 feet wide new driveway, and install 6-foot tall site-proof wooden fence along the left property line. Next slide, please. This is the proposed front elevation and the existing front elevation showing the increased roof line of the front gable to be in line with the existing roof of the upper story at the rear of the structure. Next slide, please. Proposed side elevation shows the alterations to the second floor roof line, as well as the proposed 6-foot tall site-proof fence on the south property line, which is going to be in line with the front wall of the ground floor of the existing structure. Next slide, please. Proposed exterior alterations and site improvements partially adhere to the Cooper-Young design guidelines as stated in the staff analysis on pages 5 through 10 of the staff report. And next slide, please. We recommend approval of the COA with 6 conditions. We recommend the existing portico share to be repaired and to remain at its existing location with 2 feet setback to the south property line. The existing setback is already encroaching into the required side yard setback, and any additional encroachment will require a variance approval from the Board of Adjustment before the Commission can consider a COA approval for the new location of the portico share. And we also have a friendly amendment stating that the driveway extension shall be of brick and raised by 6 inches to differentiate from the existing driveway. And I believe the applicant had a conversation with our executive secretary right before the meeting, and he was amenable to this friendly amendment as well. Next slide, please. The applicant also provided a second option for the proposed second floor alterations, showing a clipped gable roof instead of a regular gable. We do not have any objections to the second option as proposed by the applicant, and we will leave it to the Commission's consideration to choose between these options. This concludes my staff presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Did the commissioners have any questions for staff?
I do. I apologize, I was not in the design committee meeting. Was the material of were the porch columns discussed at the design review committee meeting?
I don't believe that we discussed the material of the porch columns. No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions for staff?
This is Commissioner Dow. Did we debate a similar issue in terms of height? I think there were 2 homes maybe on Cooper. Was there a similar issue with the extra height, roof height?
I can't recall the exact address for the cases, but we had similar discussions in Cooper-Young Historic District about the height of the second floor additions or alterations to the existing second floor roof lines. That is correct.
Yeah. And we moved forward on that, though. We allowed the applicant to move forward with the extra height, correct? I can't remember right now. I'm sorry.
I can't remember. I can't remember what street or the
Are you-
surrounding.
Are you referring to a case where Secretary Ragsdale helped, I believe, on some of the nuanced design stuff to
Oh, yeah.
where
It had a
where
weird
the,
here.
Right. Well, I believe
It was
one
on the
that you
east
may
side.
be referring to, Madam Chair, I believe one that you may be referring to is on Cox, and it was extending a hipped hipped roof to a gable on the front, and it was approved over on Cox. That may be the one.
And that's the one that had, it was like two houses next to each other, and it had the portico share situation was like odd. Like
those might have been. I think that was the new construction.
Those other ones.
Ground up.
Yeah.
we had a couple. We had a couple of these. Okay, I was just trying to remember that case. That's all. I was just trying to remember that case. Okay, I'll wait for my other.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Okay, the applicant, do you want to do any kind of presentation? Or do the commission have?
The only thing I guess I would like to add is on that street, there is almost constant parking across the street, on the street itself, and it is already a fairly narrow street, and egress and ingress into that driveway can be quite difficult at times. As you can see, the one car there's usually a car sitting there in that area, as it is now. And so the widening of the driveway at least maybe would allow a little easier ingress and egress off of that driveway. That was one of the main concerns that we had for the widening of the driveway. And as you can, you can notice most of the other driveways do have much wider driveways, but I understand the conditions of the house we're looking at versus those. So it's at your discretion. The issue with the upstairs is we've got a over 2,000 square foot house, 4 bedrooms, and it's got 1 bath downstairs. That's it. And in order for us to renovate this home and turn it into a nice family home, the addition of an upstairs bathroom would make a tremendous amount of difference for bringing in a family with children and things like that, which, you know, I would think would be a desirable thing to have. Other than that, that's really about it. Those are really the only changes of significance we want to make to the house and turn it into something. The roof at this point has to come off. There's been so much damage. There was a fire in that area, in that half roof section. So all of that has to come out anyway. So while we were pulling all that roof area off, we were hoping to be able to make some room to put another bath and such in that same space.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners to the applicant? Okay, is the person in opposition available?
Olivia Wall.
I'm here.
Okay, can you state your name and address?
Olivia Wall, representing the Cooper Young Community Association Development Committee, located at 2298 Young Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead, and you have
First off,
time to speak.
thank you so much for hearing from us. First, we would urge the contractor and applicant in the future to obtain a COA prior to beginning demolition or construction in order to maintain the integrity of both this commission and our historic neighborhood. We agree with the conditions in the staff report. However, the addition in the front of the house is against our guidelines, which state, quote, habitable additions shall be located to the rear or side of existing residential structures so that they do not disrupt the principal facade. New additions to the front of existing residential structures are not compatible with the structures built during the period of significance and shall not be allowed. The addition disrupts the front facade and is clearly on the front of the structure. Raising the front portion of the house disrupts its airplane bungalow style. Further, this house is in its original state was the tallest house from the period of significance on the street block, with only one other house above 1 story at 1.2 stories. Thus, there is no precedence on that street block for additional massing on the 2nd story beyond what was originally on the structure. We ask you to condition that the original half story to the rear be restored and not expanded to the front, meaning restoring the original front facade of the house by not raising the attic into addition in order to comply with our guidelines. Additions to the front of a house jeopardize the structure's designation as a contributing structure by disrupting the historic integrity. We understand it can be tempting to see an application for only its aesthetics or thinking of it in a void being built in some neighborhood somewhere in Memphis. But at the end of the day, we ask you to please uphold our guidelines too, because this project is not being built in a void and additions to the front of the house are not allowed under our guidelines. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions of the speaker? Okay, the applicant has 3 minutes for rebuttal.
As was mentioned in the staff report and with discussions, it doesn't materially change the mass impact of the house, we don't believe. And if you look down the street in that picture that you're looking at, you do see the second house down also has a very tall front structure with a little Dutch gable front on it. I know our house sits tall, but it is also on top of a hill. And the view from the street itself, other than the front facade, which I understand her concern, and I appreciate that, but we really don't believe it would be that bad. We really think it would really, well, it might, in our opinion, improve the look of the house. But I understand the concerns that the Cooper Street Young Miss Olivia has on the house. Well, I don't know. I guess that's about it. I mean, y'all can understand where I'm coming from my previous playing. So we'll just, I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I'll close the public hearing portion of this case. Can I have a motion from the commissioner?
This is Commissioner Warren. For the purposes of discussion, I move we approve COA case 2021-008, subject to staff recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second?
Commissioner Strong, a second.
Thank you. Okay, do y'all have discussion?
I do. I think that the applicant's points are well made. I was going to make the same point that 2 houses, 3 houses, the immediate neighbors to the north have similar roof slopes. I honestly think that this house looks arguably better after the addition. It's not a particularly attractive house with this overly squat gable. Whether it's authentic or not, I don't want to, fetishize history and say that everything that was built was beautiful. But the bottom line is, I I see it, we're modifying an existing gable. I don't see this as meeting the criteria of an addition per se on the front of the house, as has been mentioned. Actually, my principal concerns are with the porch, and I very much appreciate the three-dimensional drawings in this application. They're helpful, but the porch columns are somewhat worrisome to me, far more so than the little bit of increased height. Trying to find the page in the presentation that has a nice 3D view of it. Page 33, maybe? No. Page 30 it's page 30 of the staff report that I'm looking at that was hyperlinked from the agenda. So I'm not actually looking at YouTube at the moment, but what I'm looking at is a color 3D picture of a proposed front of the house. And what I see is three different types of columns. I see a solid brick column from the floor of the porch to the roof line or to the underside of the ceiling. And then I see a wood column on a brick base, and then I see wood columns. And so that's three different column types. And I think that's whether it might meet the guidelines, I just don't find it to be attractive. And so in helping the efforts of this applicant who's done an overall good job with their proposed modifications, I think that we ought to discuss those columns and somehow unify them, and perhaps even, dare I say, require brick piers. The historic catalog or the description that describes this house that's in the staff report file, I believe it describes brick piers. So I'm just putting that out for discussion. And one other thing, we need to talk about whether the brick piers are even feasible to squeeze a car in there. So I don't know that, but I'd first be curious to see what fellow commissioners think about the piers. Now that's
I
a
do
clipped
agree
gable.
that the brick piers would. Hello. Hi, this is Commissioner Strong.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. I do agree that the piers do look odd, considering the renovation or rehabbing of this house. And if there was more consistency with the brick piers, particularly towards the outer edge of the porch, it would be nice if you could have brick piers all around the driveway. But like you said, with the car and everything, I'm not quite sure. But for consistency or to sort of take away, which is sort of jarring, where you do see these skinny little posts or piers, it would help. And I would also just like to say, I wanted to make sure the friendly condition that the applicant agreed to with the brick pavers, I believe, was in the driveway or something that was mentioned as one of the conditions, that would apply as well if option 2 was selected. I'm asking staff on that, right?
Did I hear you? Staff?
Aisha, did you understand the question from Commissioner Strong?
I think Commissioner Strong's question was whether or not the friendly amendment would go with the option 2. That is not the case. We recommended the friendly amendment in addition to the existing staff conditions, and it is up to the commission to decide between option 1 or option 2 regarding the front gable, but the friendly amendment stays, and I believe the applicant already agreed to meet that friendly amendment.
Okay, so yes, just to clarify that, I believe, so the friendly amendment for the brick pavers for the drive would be for either option, and so you guys can consider the front gable either as a true gable or a clipped gable.
Does the friendly amendment, does the applicant understand that the friendly amendment raises the brick essentially to the height of a curb. And if the intent was that the brick was going to make it easier to drive in and out, then that's not going to be the case anymore. I don't know if we're engaging the applicant in our discussion, but at this point,
the chair would like, we could, but yes, the applicant does understand that, and it's
all right.
Yes. I was going to also mention that looking at the columns that are existing and the applicant's request to actually extend the porte-cochere, which we cannot consider today because that was not going to be in compliance with zoning, the applicant may instead prefer to keep the existing columns that are there, until which case they might apply for a variance, because as Commissioner Warren mentioned, if you do add any columns there, you add brick, the porte-cochere is going to be basically unusable to a certain extent. So that might be an option to where the proposal to replace those columns with wood, he may prefer to just leave those as they are until he can decide whether to get a variance.
I understand. I think that the existing columns were clearly, these cantilevered or angled steel columns that we see that were probably put in the 70s when cars got really big. Clearly they're not desirable from a historic preservation standpoint. So, and given the scope of the work and the scale of the investment in the house, I would be reluctant. I would rather have all timber columns or square craftsman style columns of wood across the porch rather than keep those. They're goofy as hell, for lack of a better way to put it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, what was I going to say? I don't know. Anybody else have anything to discuss?
I was just going to point out, this is Brown Gill, that the current columns, the full porch to deck brick column, and then the half column with the metal going through it is existing on the house. And then the pediment that's half brick, they have a plant on right now in the Google photos. So those are all existing on the current structure.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, perhaps I'll simplify or maintain the original motion that would be simply approval subject to staff conditions. But that doesn't settle the issue of option A or option B.
Yeah.
And having spent more time in the PDF that was probably published a week ago or more, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to option B, which is a clipped gable. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Does anyone have any strong feelings about that?
This is Commissioner Love. I actually was considering that distinction between the two, whether the clipped gable or the full gable. And could you go back to the streetscape in Google Maps? Or any other precedents of there being a clipped gable kind of in this neighborhood? Because my feelings, just taking this building alone into context, is that a clipped gable would probably help soften the perception of this being such a large, front when you're going from the street or driving through on the street, which I know that was one of the concerns of the neighborhood association. So we have some, but since this is something that could potentially be contextual and actually relate to a few of the other buildings in this neighborhood, I think the clipped gabled roof would actually help with this particular elevation. And that's just my opinion.
Okay. Any further discussion?
This is Commissioner Payne. I agree that both of the options that have been presented today are an improvement from the ones presented last month for the addition, but now that I fully understand the guidelines of the neighborhood, I can't support any front addition. There are two shalls in there that any addition in Cooper Young needs to be to the side or to the rear of the property. And as you know, we're working to uphold these guidelines. Even though I agree that the way that it's been worked, I like option A or option B. I think they're attractive. They go directly against the guidelines of the neighborhood, so I wouldn't approve. But I approve all the other conditions, and I do like, I know it's a little complicated, but I do like Commissioner Warren's recommendations to possibly set the portico share on brick piers. I think that would, streamline the look a little and be more attractive. But again, the front addition, even though it's attractive, it goes directly against the neighborhood guidelines. So I would not support that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, can we restate the motion? And add anything?
Sure. This is Commissioner Warren. I move to approve case. Sorry. What's our agenda item number?
Hold on.
2021-008.
Yeah.
008. Yeah, there it is. Item 8. I move to approve case 2021-008, subject to staff recommendations, with the additional condition that option B with eclipse gable be implemented.
There's a second?
This is Commissioner Love. I second.
Okay, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Ms. Doss?
Yes.
Ms. Boyd? I believe Ms. Boyd joined us, but we'll come back. Ms. Payne?
No.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
No.
And Ms. Boyd, she may have Chair Cox. Sorry, Chair Tucker.
Okay. Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Can you call the next case, please?
Yes, ma'am. It's item number 10, CLA 2021-011, 932 Philadelphia Street, Cooper Young Historic District.
Okay, is the applicant present? Hello? Hello?
Yes, let's see. Mr. Penzis, do we have the applicant on?
He is unmuted. The representative, Depti Deshpande.
I'm here. Carlos was supposed to talk on this call.
Okay. Are we going forward with this? Hello?
Yes, Ms.
Yeah, we
Deshpande, are you you are the designer and you were on the application. If you are able to speak for the applicant and represent them, then we can move forward.
Sure.
Okay, can you state your name and address for the record?
Deepti Deshpande, 4715 Park Avenue.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Have you had a chance to read the staff report?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and do you agree with the staff report and its conditions?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Okay, so we do have opposition, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we move forward with the staff presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item before you is a request for new construction of a 950 square feet rear addition to a one-story single-family home in Cooper Young Historic District. Subject property is located on the east side of Philadelphia Street, the block between Oliver Avenue and Young Avenue. Next slide, please. The existing structure is a contributing structure to the Cooper Young Historic District. It is a one-story bungalow with craftsman influence built in 1910. Next slide, please. The applicant is proposing to build a 950 square feet addition to the rear of the existing structure, and the site plan shows the addition with 5 feet setback on the rear right side and 8 feet setback on the left side of the lot. And the rear setback with the proposed addition is going to be about 23 feet. Next slide, please. The front elevation shows the proposed addition, which will be only partially visible from this viewpoint on the left side of the structure, extruding about 3 feet to the left. Next slide, please. The side elevations show the rear addition with the same exterior materials as the existing, with horizontal siding and architectural shingles on the roof. The new windows and door openings are also found to be consistent and appropriate with the existing structure. Next slide, please. Proposed new construction of this addition adheres to the Cooper Young design guidelines, but we made some recommendations concerning design and material details for consistency. Next slide, please. The staff recommends approval with 5 conditions as stated in the staff report, page 10. And this concludes my staff presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do commissioners have any questions for the staff?
This is Peter Warren. I have a question for staff. Why is this not, why is this a major application? It appears to be an addition on the back of the house. I've been studying the drawings, trying to find any kind of significant change to the front of the front facade or the front of the house. I don't see any. I want to make sure I understand.
Yes, sir. The rear addition will be partially visible from left and right, and you will be able to see the a portion of the addition's side elevation. That's why we considered this as a major application.
Right. Okay, so I did notice that there's 3 feet. There are 3 feet of the structure that are outside the boundary of the current. But you're saying, had this been 3 feet narrower, this would be a minor, most likely. Or is that correct?
I would relay that
I guess it's sort of a.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Aisha. I guess I think you've confirmed what I was wondering, that this is before us because it has a 3 foot. The footprint of the addition is 3 feet wider than the main house.
Yes, and the sight lines from the side elevations, the addition will be visible, the side elevation.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions for staff? Okay. The applicant has 5 minutes to present their case or make comments if they choose. Is she? Hello?
Carlos, is Carlos on the call?
No.
I don't. No, he's not.
Oh.
Okay. Did you want to represent?
Yes. Sure.
Okay.
We had opposition to this one from Miss Olivia Wall and Mr. Patrick Durkin. So I would just like to talk about that.
Is that something, Mr. Secretary? Mr. Secretary?
Did you want to?
Is that,
well, so Ms. Blonde will have 3 minutes. If she doesn't want to present right now, she will have 3 minutes after our opposition speaks to address any comments.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as the opposition, Judah.
Patrick Durkin.
Yes, hello.
Okay, can you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, it's Patrick Durkin, 935 Bruce Street.
Okay. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I live directly behind this property. Our backyards line up with one another. I'm calling today. I'm not against the idea of them building an addition. However, I am against the proposed size of this addition. At 950 square feet, this is almost the same size as the original structure. That is not an addition, but it's more like adding a second home to the property. I am against this because of the sheer size and how it will ultimately start to encroach on my outdoor privacy as it inches closer to the property line. The Cooper-Young guidelines state that additions should be subservient in scale and massing to the main structure. By adding on this much square footage, it'll be the equal size of the main structure. This is not a situation where a family needs more living space. This is a developer adding on to take advantage of the Cooper-Young housing market and to sell the property for $400,000. Meanwhile, further disrupting the enjoyment of the neighbors as we already are surrounded right here by the 4 tall skinnies that are adjacent to both me and this house in question. Please follow the Cooper-Young guidelines and at least scale back the size of this addition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have questions, commissioners, for the speaker?
I have one question for DC. Is it, or what's going on with the roof structure of that addition? It seems that it's more of a kind of shed off. It's not exactly the same ratio or slope ratio as the actual existing house. Is that correct?
Was this a question for the speaker?
For the applicant? I don't know if it was it. I don't know if we had that opportunity to speak to the applicant as the speaker, or are we asking for the opposition?
Well, right now we're in opposition. We'll have the applicant back after that.
All right. I'll hold my question.
Okay, thanks. Okay, any commissioner have questions for this speaker in particular? Okay, I think there was another speaker as well, wasn't there?
Olivia Wall.
Okay, Olivia, are you on?
I'm here.
Okay, I've already sworn you in.
Once again, Olivia Wall, speaking on behalf of the Cooper-Young Community Association Development Committee located at 2298 Young Avenue. Thank you so much once again for hearing from us. Once again, on this project, we want to urge the contractor and applicant in the future to obtain a COA prior to beginning demolition and construction in order to maintain the integrity of both this commission and our historic neighborhood. We agree with the conditions of the staff report. However, the rear addition does not comply with our guidelines, which state additions shall be subservient in scale and massing to the main structure. The addition is 950 square feet, while the original is only 1,097 square feet. The size of the addition basically doubles the massing and scale of the house, making it significantly larger than the other houses from the period of significance on the street block. In writing our guidelines, we use the word subservient to describe something significantly smaller, subordinate to the main structure, not something basically the same size. If we as a neighborhood were okay with additions which double the size of the house, we wouldn't have included that guideline at all. Although the term subservient is subjective, we ask that you require the addition to be subservient, subordinate, significantly reduced in scale and massing. Approving inappropriate additions for the sake of the developer turning a profit is not in the spirit of our guidelines and is not in the spirit of this commission. We worked very hard for a very long time for this historic designation, and it is extremely discouraging when every addition is approved regardless of what our guidelines say. Guidelines we wrote and agreed on as a neighborhood. Please help us by understanding the spirit of our guidelines and what every approval which goes against these guidelines does to our streets and to our continued eligibility on the National Historic Registry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions for this speaker? Okay, thank you. Now the applicant has 3 minutes for their rebuttal, if you want to take it.
This is DT again. Carlos is on the call and he's trying to speak, but I think he's muted. So can someone please unmute him so he can talk?
This is Jerry Pence. Do you know what phone number he called in from? It wasn't the one provided, which is why I don't know he's here.
I think he's on call from the same number. Let me check. 901-949-2177 is his number.
It's not showing up. Is he calling from like an office? Because sometimes they default to like the main line.
I don't think so. He's on his cell phone as far as I know.
Can
and
he
he
call
can
in
hear
again?
the meeting. I can ask him.
I looked up Pfeiffer and Associates. Their phone number is 800-2003. That's not an 800 number. That's 901-800-2003. If you see that.
That's it. Here we go. Found him.
Hello? Hello?
What? Yeah.
Hello, this
Did
is
you say-
Carlos Pfeiffer. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, can you state your name and address?
This is Carlos Pfeiffer with Pfeiffer and Associates. My address is 1441 South Perkins. In regards to 932 Philadelphia.
Okay, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You can proceed.
Yes, I just wanted to respond in regards to the size and scale. We looked at a couple of properties over there in proportion to the lot size on Bruce that we're kind of within the same framework that's already there. So one of my questions at the last meeting was defining actually what that means as far as what we could build. So it's not actually double in size because the existing square footage is 1,097. We just was asking to do the addition in order to kind of accommodate, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. So those just are necessary footage we need to kind of accommodate what you would normally see in a single-family home for marketing purposes. So we was hoping that you guys would take that in consideration as one of the things that we can look at to make it beneficial for us to have that investment in that particular property.
Okay, thank you. Did y'all have any questions for this applicant?
Yeah, as Commissioner Warren, I have a question that I think is in anticipation of Commissioner Payne's question. Is it possible to pull up the front elevation on the presentation for this question? I guess it's for the applicant and the design applicant and the contractor and the designer. It seems that the roof line of the addition is kind of sneaking out from behind the roof line of the house. And I'm curious if you would be amenable to making it match that of the house, and with respect to the 3 feet that have triggered this entire review and not, in other words, disqualified it from being a minor, that would be a shed roof or a little hip shed that kicks off sort of at the last minute. Does that make sense?
I think we would be open to yes, just make the roof look more consistent with the, yes.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there was a roof plan. There it is. Yeah, so the roof plan actually would imply that the 3 foot, there's no break line in the roof plan on page 18 of my staff report that I've downloaded. Anyway, thank you for answering that question. I have nothing further for the applicant.
Okay, any other questions?
This is Commissioner Dawes. If someone answers my question, I was curious as to whether you have the addresses to the comparable homes on Bruce, or at least one of them. I'd like to see that, if you know the address.
Yes, it's one on 931 Bruce. It's one on
931
Bruce. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to now close the public portion of this case and to allow the commissioners for further discussion. Can I have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve COA 2021-011 subject to staff recommendations for the purposes of discussion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
This is Commissioner Strong. Second.
Okay. Okay, now it's open for discussion.
I'll get my comments in and I'll stand back out of the way after that. But I find this to be a extremely harmless addition. It is a large addition relative to the scale of the house, but it is a legal addition. The side yard setbacks are observed. The rear yard setbacks are observed. 99 out of 100 people driving down the street are not even going to notice this addition. The footprint of the house, including the front porch, is 1250 or 1260, and the footprint of the addition is 910, including the 3 foot bump out. So yes, it's a large addition, but looking at the photos of this house, it is in terrible shape. And the applicant here is going to invest at a minimum probably more like $150,000 in it, and I find it to be a good thing. I'm fully in support of my motion to approve.
This is Brown Gill. I completely agree with Mr. Warren's assessment. I also know this developer contractor, and the work that I've seen him do has been high quality work.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Payne. Commissioner Payne, I agree that the addition, it's large, but it is in the rear and with no roof line change. It won't be seen from the street, and that's the main concern. However, in regards to the condition of the house, my understanding after reading the staff report and the letters submitted by neighbors is that a lot of the damage that we see in the photos was caused by the developers who started without getting a COA first. And please correct me if I misunderstand that, but that's discouraging to me. It sounds like this will be a good addition to the home, but it's not being done in good faith with the neighbors. And even though I agree that this should ultimately be approved, I'd like to see everything that was harmed be repaired in kind. All that siding that's destroyed on the side, that needs to be replaced in kind, and that's my understanding from the staff, from the conditions, that it will be, but I just want to make that point that it seems like the deterioration was not there prior to work being started without a COA first.
This is Commissioner Strong. I would like to follow up on what Commissioner Payne said. Not only was that the case for 932 Philadelphia Street, where, as she stated, which was indicated in the staff report, a stop work order had to be issued, but there was also the case for the previous application we just got through speaking about, 937 Blythe Street, where a stop work order had to be issued as well. And I just hope this does not become more of an issue for the Cooper Young neighborhood. I would just really hate to see that become the norm. Thank you.
Ms. Commissioner Warren, go ahead.
Go ahead, you go.
Well, I was just going to say, if there's no more further discussion, but it sounds like there is some, I do have an amendment to my motion regarding my roof line comment, but we can certainly discuss as long as needed.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'd like to amend the motion to be, I move to approve COA case 2021-011, subject to staff recommendations with the addition of a condition that the roof line of the addition exactly match the roof line of the existing house, and the 3-foot footprint that sticks out on the left side would be reconciled either by having that roof line extend slightly to a lower elevation, as in staying coplanar, or it could transition to a shed roof with minimal visual impacts somewhere close to that perimeter.
Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Love. I second.
Excuse me? Was there a second?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Too many people. There was a second?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a second.
Okay. Can I have a roll call?
Yes. Ms. Doss?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Ms. Boyd?
Yes.
Ms. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, could we have the next item?
Yes, Madam Chair, our final case is item number 14, NHD 20-002. That is the Valentine Evergreen Historic District application that we had last month and was held for a month.
Okay. Are the applicants present?
The applicant is here.
Okay. Do we handle this the same way, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, and we have a list of people to speak for the applicant. We have 2 to speak for the applicant. Then we also have several in support, and I believe we may have a couple in opposition.
Okay. All right, can I have the applicant, whoever's applying?
Karen Edwards.
There. Okay, and your address, please?
1887 South Rainbow, 38107.
Okay, thanks. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Have you had a chance to read the staff report?
Yes.
Okay, and do you agree?
Yes. I mean,
okay, thank you. Okay, so we need do we need to do the staff presentation again?
The applicant actually has a presentation, so I think we could just move straight to that.
Okay.
Yes, I'm
let's
sorry.
go for- Okay.
I may have answered incorrectly. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Are you all going to bring up the presentation? I don't have it up on my screen.
Is this the I don't know what the presentation is. The staff.
Andy Kitzinger sent it to you all.
I think that's it. Do you have it?
Yes, it should be on the screen.
Okay, thank you. That's the screen I was looking for.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay, so commissioners, just wanted to let you all know, I know you asked for some community outreach and engagement. So just going back to our December presentation, it detailed a timeline of the numerous actions done for our landmark community engagement dating from 2017 to 2020. It also included preservation efforts since 1970. That presentation, along with the summary, was emailed again on January 22nd. From December to January, you see, next slide, to nearly double with a combined total of 194 letters in support and
let me in. Hello.
Hello? Okay. Excuse me, I don't know who that was. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. We had a combined total of 194 letters in support and 14 opposing. Klondike, Smoky City, CDC, Palmer Shire Park, Community Association, and Rhodes College no longer in opposition. Memphis Landmarks, you all asked Becca to show good faith outreach and engagement done in December 2020 to now and overall. Since December, we've completed multiple meetings, emails, and phone calls with persons and organizations for and against landmarks to answer their questions and address their concerns. We met with Klondike, Smoky City, CDC, and its partners about North Watkins, and with a representative from Palmer Shire Park about Springdale. And we've published a landmarks FAQs and another survey to extend our community outreach efforts, along with education and resources routinely shared on becca.org, e-news, quarterly newsletters, and social media. Recapping 2017 to 2020, Landmarks formally began in 2017 with articles and fact sheets created, published, and distributed at Becca's events like the annual meeting, the art walk, and Becca's street fair and walking tour. Then in 2018, Glenview, Cooper Young, and Speedway Terrace Historic District spoke to 100 people about local landmarks at our annual meeting. And Landmarks flyers were handed out and Q&A done then and at the B&E Art Walk and National Night Out. In 2019, Landmarks was presented at our annual meeting with 100 people in attendance. We held 8 Landmarking Becca public in-person meetings at churches throughout our community and 4 at our Welcome Center. And we had a Landmarks booth at the B&E Art Walk. In October, Becca was awarded the Tennessee Historical Commission grant that funded the writing of our design guidelines due by 2020. Then in 2020, Landmarks was again discussed at our annual meeting. This will be the last in-person meeting with future meetings done online. Becca held 3 community online meetings in 2020. MLC requires just 1. Commissioners, I believe Becca has demonstrated a compelling amount of outreach, community engagement, resources, communication, and support of Landmarks that started 4 years ago. This should dispel any doubts on the outreach and community engagement done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have another speaker?
Yes,
Madam Chair. And
okay,
Ms. Coopier, you have about 2 minutes.
Okay. State your
Yes,
name.
Madam Chair. This is Andy Kitzinger, 1665 Overton Park, Memphis, Tennessee, 38112.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. I'll go over the text amendments that we've revised the design guidelines since the December meeting. We've replaced these maps, boundary maps on pages 5, 12, 21, and 67, and text description changes. Next slide, please. You can see the slide that shows the areas that were subtracted from the district, and that includes both sides of Watkins. And then that also includes on the east to the center line of Springdale. Next slide, please. So these revisions are a result of Commissioner Warren's comments. On new construction, page 41, we've replaced consistent with architecture and styling with compatible with. Next slide, please. The exterior alterations, we have revised page 51 to make an exception for new windows and door piercings for mobility impairments. Next slide, please. And then we revised the exhibits to make the workflow and the landmarks review more clear. And that's the next 3 slides. Thank you very much for your support. We hope that you support the neighborhood in the adoption of the design guidelines.
Okay. Are there any other presenters?
Yes, there are.
No, Madam Chair, not for the applicant.
Not applicants, but speakers, sorry.
What now? I couldn't, it was broken up.
We have other people, not applicants, but just people wanting to speak on behalf of Landmark Support.
Okay. Then do we go from here, Secretary, to that? Do they have time for the speakers?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next speaker.
Olivia Wall.
Okay, Olivia, we've got you.
Hi, I'm here again, speaking on behalf of the Cooper Young Community Association Development Committee located at 2298 Young Avenue. We are fully in support of the creation of the Valentine Evergreen Historic District. We are discouraged by the case being held in December, as it seems clear Valentine Evergreen has gone above and beyond the requirements of the application process. It is also extremely discouraging that developers who do not live in the neighborhood could step in late to the conversation and commandeer it for their own investment interests, while parties who have lived in the neighborhood for decades, created the community, and have fought for landmark designation for so long are being pushed aside. We urge you to support a better Midtown for all, which champions good development under landmarks by approving the Valentine Evergreen Historic District. Thank you. I defer the rest of my time to the next speaker.
Okay, thank you. So I have the next speaker.
Lily Gilkey.
Okay. Would you state your name and address, please? You're a little hard to hear.
Can you hear me now?
I'll hear her okay? Go ahead. Well, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Okay. See if you can speak a little bit louder, because you're very muffled to me.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, that's good. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Lily Gilkett, and I live at 918 Stonewall Street. and I have lived on the northwest quadrant of VECA for over 40 years, and I attend church in the Smoky City area. I'm the president of VECA, which is an all-volunteer group of Valentine Evergreen residents. I've served on the VECA board for over 15 years, and this board consists of representatives from all 4 quadrants, the northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast of the neighborhood. We are celebrating our 50-year anniversary this year. So please support our ongoing efforts of stewardship and neighborhood advocacy by voting yes to approve our VECA application. As president, I feel compelled to continue the longstanding legacy of making a difference and accomplishing great things through VECA advocacy. Since its founding, VECA has taken a stand against redlining, blockbusting efforts by private realtors, and school segregation. VECA CDC purchased, repaired, and rehabilitated several houses located in VECA's northwest quadrant, offering and managing them as affordable rental houses. VECA volunteers have mowed grass, cleaned debris, and surveyed houses on both the east and west side of North Watkins Street for code complaints, violations, including applying for and receiving small grants to help with purchasing supplies and boarding up and preserving many of the vacant, abandoned homes. Our effort has significantly improved the landscape on North Watkins Street while preserving the homes until positive development could occur again. Over the years, I have volunteered to deliver newsletters on several streets in the quadrant, participated in National Night Out, served on VECA Management Committee, Neighborhood Works, Neighborhood Watch Committee. And as I walk through the neighborhood, I've seen neighbors take pride in their homes. And there are some beautiful homes on the north section as well as the east and Springdale area. And these homes are worth saving and protecting. We know our local landmark status will give us another tool for helping our beloved V&E neighborhood grow in this historic district. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you.
Holly Jensen Fulkerson.
Okay, Holly?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, name and address?
Holly Jensen Fulkerson with Memphis Heritage, and we're at 2282 Madison Avenue.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the Memphis Landmarks Commission is responsible for preserving and protecting the historic architectural and cultural landmarks in the city of Memphis. We might expect to meet resistance for a landmarks district application from the Land Use Control Board and the City Council, but at Landmarks, this is counterintuitive to the Commission's mission. Memphians often say that we don't want to become Nashville, where they're ruining historic neighborhoods, tearing down historic homes, and replacing them with tall skinnies. This inappropriate and incompatible development is happening so much in Memphis. Out-of-town investors and local house flippers are running rampant, and VECA is at risk of losing its architectural and historic integrity. I hear from contacts in Nashville all the time about how our city has done a much better job of preserving our neighborhoods. I attribute that to our strong landmarks neighborhoods and the hard work of neighbors who get involved and campaign tirelessly to protect their neighborhoods. Part of the Landmarks Commission's job is to create landmarks districts. We urge you to afford VECA this protection, the kind of protection that the overwhelming majority of VECA neighbors and Memphians in general want to see in this architecturally and historically rich, diverse neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Mary Wilder.
Okay. Mary, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. State your name and address.
672 North Idlewild. Mary Wilder.
Okay.
I have lived.
Oh, go ahead. Do you?
No.
Do you
go ahead. You go.
Do you have?
Yes,
I
do.
Swear to tell. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. I've lived in the Valentine Evergreen neighborhood since 1974. And I'm not going anywhere. And I really appreciate the Landmarks Commission. Thank you, commissioners, for hearing our case today.
In the early 1970s, the city of Memphis set up the Landmarks program to enable neighborhoods to engage in managing their own community. Landmarks has evolved communities that are not only National Register historic places, but also neighborhoods with significant resources that they wish to preserve. Our other speakers that you will hear from and that you have heard from have reviewed or will review with you the community engagement efforts that we have done, not only during our process, but also as you asked us to go back and talk with some of our neighbors in opposition. During the public process, we met your guideline, which is one public meeting, but we have exceeded that with 3 public meetings, albeit Zoom, because we had to do it during the pandemic. But even prior to that, in 2019, we had over 8 public face-to-face meetings. We have continually publicly educated our community through our emails, through our printed newsletter, and through our webpage. You yourselves can go onto the webpage and read the guidelines. They are there. They've been there for over a year as we've worked on them and changed them in different iterations. Becca has also reviewed with you the outreach, last month's opposition concerns. I think we did that at the beginning of this, and the boundaries have been changed and we've made modifications to some of the guidelines. We thank you for your time and ask that you approve Becca's application. Becca will then proceed to the Land Use Control Board and on to City Council. Thank you so much for all your hard work. Thank you for listening to us this afternoon. That's my piece. Thank you.
Susan Askew.
Okay, Susan, are you on?
My name is Susie Askew, 1875 Jackson Avenue.
Do you swear to tell the
Can
truth,
you hear
the whole
me?
truth? Yes. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I was encouraged last week by Mayor Strickland's announcement of a big $200 million plan called Accelerate Memphis, Invest in Neighborhoods. As he said, quote, I also think it's a visible sign to the community that we are going to aggressively try to recapture the momentum we had, end quote. To most of us here, that is big money going into neighborhoods. The last time I talked to you, I stressed all the positive things about our neighborhood. Many of these things that are in the mayor's initiative, we have already worked on, we already have. We have been diligent in maintaining our own momentum, and now we need your help for our biggest initiative to save the B&E neighborhood. I would like to speak on big and remind you that we are a small village in a big city. We are big, but we have been that way for almost a century, and we have been organized through the community for 50 years. We are intact, we are historic, and we are united. I got the impression at the December meeting that big was not good. I'm not sure that the size of the district matters. There are tiny ones like Maxwellton, which is a single house. There's Collins Chapel, that's a church that's managed by a congregation. And there are large ones like Central Gardens and Evergreen. Yes, V&E will be the largest, which means more people will be involved in its life. Denying status on the condition of size doesn't take into the consideration the savings of a large, coherent collection of historic properties. We are the big jewel shining in the middle of the city, and we will be eroded without the tools of a historic overlay to protect it. We are big like the enormous Shelby Farms. Memphis has the largest urban park in America, and we are quite proud of it. We have the biggest hospital, the largest transportation hub, the biggest pyramid, the greatest art collection, and the top universities, corporations, and churches. So why can't we have a big historic neighborhood? We know that V&E is quiet, but we are engaged and we are responsible. And if we are to become the largest neighborhood of historic properties in Memphis, then let's consider this a good thing, something we should celebrate. Think of the headlines, think of the billboards. Any city in America that was told. You have an untouched, okay, diverse neighborhood would jump at the chance to put it under a local landmarks district. And all of our houses deserve that, from the 1920s to the 1970 era that is just now eligible for national landmark status. Please save our neighborhood with this overlay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else?
There are 3 additional speakers left. The next one is Amelia Thompson.
Okay, Amelia, are you on?
This is Amelia Thompson,
Okay, your address, please.
920 Hawthorne Street.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate my statements from the December meeting that I serve on the VECA board, and I grew up in North Memphis, so I have a lifelong investment in this area. And just to reiterate some of the statements from my fellow volunteers, historic preservation is important to me personally because I have lived in neighborhoods in 2 of the country's most major and largest cities, Washington, D.C. and New York City. And I have lived in neighborhoods and seen firsthand how quickly an area can change due to over-accelerated commercial development and gentrification. And I specifically moved home to Memphis to be within the charm and uniqueness of our city. And as many people have stated, the charm of VECA and its diversity and how its residents have really contributed so much to not only keeping VECA a united, beautiful, well-maintained neighborhood, but also made contributions to other parts of the city is very important to me. My grandmother, Modine Thompson, was a resident of Edward Avenue in the Valentine Evergreen Historic Neighborhood for 60 years until her death in 2019. And she was a major influence in not only protecting the neighborhood, but ensuring that Black members of the Valentine and Evergreen neighborhood had their voices heard. And so she continues to be a major influence in my life, and it's important to me that her legacy is honored. So I ask the commission to consider this historic designation as another layer of protection for this very special neighborhood. And I appreciate your time and hearing from me again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Austin Rowe.
Austin, are you on?
As another layer of protection for this very special neighborhood. And I appreciate your time and hearing from me again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Austin Rowe.
Mr. Rowe, I believe you may have your YouTube on. Could you mute that, please?
Yeah, because we got a delay. Is he there?
Hello?
Austin, is that you?
This is Austin.
Okay, could you state your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Austin Rowe. I'm a realtor with Captain & Co. Real Estate, and my residence is 910 Hawthorne Street, Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. And as a realtor, I wanted to speak. Adverse renovations can and will have adverse effects on property values and neighborhood cohesiveness. Over time, these renovations, depending on the quality and type, can bring down the property value of not only the subject property, but the neighborhood as a whole. In my experience as a realtor in the Midtown Memphis region for 4 years, people that are seeking a home in the Midtown and VECA region are seeking historically preserved homes. I do not represent all realtors. However, I do have a particular passion for historic preservation and see the value in the preservation of the Valentine Evergreen neighborhood. I have realtor friends who live in other cities that are deeply saddened by their historic neighborhoods being mowed down in the name of urban renewal. The landmarks designation will actively prevent out-of-town and out-of-neighborhood investors from destroying our neighborhood and homes. Most, not all, investors are seeking to maximize their investment and do not consider the effect their investment has on the neighborhood or the property as a whole. I have been in several homes in this neighborhood that have been permanently destroyed both on the interior and the exterior, and it is saddening to see these once beautiful homes turn into something from a cookie-cutter neighborhood outside of the historic Memphis area. Thank you for your time, and please save this historic Memphis neighborhood to live on for many Memphians to come.
Thank you.
The final speaker in support, Angeline Powell.
Angeline, are you there?
Thank you for your time, and save this historic Memphis neighborhood to live on for many Memphians to come.
Wait, I can't hear you.
Thank you.
Is it Angeline?
Final
Hello?
speaker in support, Angeline Powell.
Hello?
Hello?
Ms. Powell, can you
My name
mute
is
your YouTube?
Angeline Powell. My address is 1461 Tutwiler Avenue.
Okay. Do you have your something on in the background, or you done, or did you turn it down?
My name, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
1461 Tutwiler Avenue. Yes, you couldn't hear me.
Do you have your something on?
No, I muted it. Okay. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
I
truth?
have been a resident of Becca since 2004, when I came here to work at the University of Memphis. This application for a historic zoning overlay, local landmark status, is not about exclusion. It is about protecting the Valentine Evergreen neighborhood from predatory house flippers, speculative bulk buying, which contributes to neighborhood instability and the loss of the existing affordable housing. The house next door to me was renovated. The original stonework was removed, the mail slot was closed, and I personally had to stop them from cutting down a walnut tree between our properties. I live between Watkins and Stonewall on Tutwiler, which wasn't considered nice part of Becca, and I am aware of the perception of two Beccas. We, Becca volunteers, work diligently to ensure that the part of Becca north of Jackson is well taken care of as possible. I personally have cleaned up vacant lots, held code enforcement meetings, and met with residents to ensure that those living in the northwest quadrant were included and heard in all matters relating to the Becca Community Association. I also delivered newsletters on the east and west side of Watkins. I implore, I beg the Memphis Landmark Commission not to penalize Becca because of its diversity and size. It has a long-standing reputation for inclusion. It is a plus, not a minus, that we have included all people and all houses within our borders. Thank you for your consideration in protecting our neighborhood, its residents, and the properties included. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are those all the?
That is the end of the support. We have 3 speakers in opposition now.
Okay. Yeah. Why don't we go forth with that? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So the first is P. Moses.
Okay. Can you state your name, your full name, and your address, please?
Point of order, please. Is there a parliamentary on this board or commission?
No.
Hello? There's not? Okay, I have a point of order. If this is a public meeting, I have, before I begin, my name is P. Moses, aka Pamela Moses. I live at 2369 Jackson Avenue, 38108. And I want to first clarify if the board member that is identifying themselves as Commissioner Strong, if their first name is Commissioner Natasha Strong. Because I can't see anybody. I'm not used to being in meetings where I can't see who I'm talking to. Is the commissioner on this board Commissioner Natasha Strong? Point of order.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Miss Commissioner Strong's a very nice lady. I've worked with her before, but I would like to now ask her what is her affiliation with VECA, because the last time I was working with her, she was the president of VECA. So I think there may be a potential conflict of interest of her voting or making any motions on this agenda item.
Ms.
So I
Powell,
need to first clarify that.
Secretary, excuse me, I think
Ms. Powell,
the secretary.
this is Brett Ragsdale, Executive Secretary. Ms. Powell, Ms. Strong will recuse herself if she needs to. She has in the past on this, and I expect her to do so at this time. So that will be handled as it should be.
Okay, I just need to clarify that, so I can proceed now with my objections. My name is P. Moses. Again, I represent Black Lives. I'm the founder of Black Lives Matter Memphis and the state of Tennessee. I'm also the director of Rise Up America and Rise Up North Memphis, which is a subsidiary that's been working for over 3.5 years officially in the North Memphis community.
Okay,
I'm sorry, someone is speaking.
Did you state your address?
I stated it earlier, I believe.
Okay,
Did you not hear me?
I missed that. Okay.
You need me to state it again? Okay, it's 2369 Jackson Avenue, 38108. I'm calling in. I'm sorry, I'll let you go. I can't speak while you're speaking.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now go ahead.
Okay. So I am objecting to this matter here, not because I don't think VECA should have historical preservation, but there is some deception from the applicant. It wasn't Ms. Wilder, because she spoke, I think, last, or she didn't. Whoever spoke first, they gave some misinformation to this board that they had received support from other neighborhood communities. I have not been privy to look at those letters of support, but I did, while I was on this 3-hour and 16-minute call a couple of the people that are on those boards, and I spoke with specifically the Palmer-Shard Park neighborhood, and they did not give you any support for this matter. That's what I was told, but, if there's a letter of support, I need that for evidence in case there's any legal matters that come out of this approval or denial. I need a copy of all letters of support from the neighborhoods that she said did support this effort that they're trying to do to historically preserve communities that are not in their community, the VECA Association. So that's the first point of order. Also, the next objection I have is the boundaries. VECA has, over the years, I think Ms. Wilder said she's been there since 1974, so I wasn't even born, but somehow they have included Rhodes College and everything on McLean on this side where we live, closer to Hyde Park. They've included that within the VECA boundaries, which is not accurate according to history. So if we're going to historically preserve something in Memphis, Tennessee, we need to do it right. And so those boundaries need to be where they are. They don't need to be on this end, nowhere near Springdale, because Springdale should never have been put a part of their neighborhood, but somehow it was, and I wasn't involved when that happened. I'm not trying to change that, but if we're going to do it on a historical level, because Hollywood, the neighborhood in which I represent as a block captain and a community representative, we're going to apply for our own preservation
indigenously and nationally, and we don't want any problems with the accuracy because VECA in September of last year submitted this application incorrectly with misinformation to this board. So I don't have a problem with it being approved, but I would strongly like to give a letter and support to VECA to do this, but there are some other things that need to be prerequisites that need to be discussed with
Ms.
real
Moses,
community leaders.
you have about 30 seconds.
Okay, there's some more, there's some things that need to be talked to. All the things that they said they collected data, I was a part of that, and we all know that it wasn't accurate data. If they want to mislead this board into believing that, we're prepared to go to a legal entity or an administrative law judge to get it reviewed. So I'd rather work it out, diplomatically, and I ask that you hold this matter for 30 days because we also have a presentation, but I have no way of presenting it because the public wasn't allowed to present as the other people were. So I'd ask that it be tabled for at least 30 days so we can work this out. Thank you.
Okay. Can the next person come and speak that's against?
Mary Claire Boyers.
Okay. Is Mary Claire on the
Yes,
phone?
I am.
Okay.
Hi, Cindy.
Hey, state your name and address, please.
Mary Claire Boris, 924 North Idlewild, Memphis, Tennessee, Tennessee 38107.
Okay, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, Commissioners, I am a 35-year resident of the Valentine Evergreen neighborhood, and I'm speaking today on behalf of myself and also my mother, Julie Boris, who's a 46 or 7-year resident of the Valentine Evergreen neighborhood, former VECA president, and one of the folks who helped stop the interstate. I did leave for a few years, but I moved back to VECA because part of the charm of Midtown is our casual freedom and not feeling like you're under the thumb of a busybody HOA, like if we moved out to the suburbs. And to be quite blunt, the opposition to the B&E historic designation is growing, but only in one specific regard. And that is there are a lot of us who are existing homeowners who are really worried about the impact that these guidelines will have on us. We're not developers, we're not newcomers, we're not people looking to make a profit. We are existing homeowners who are worried about what this is going to do in terms of our abilities to take care of our homes. We're fine with the concept of having a historic district and having rules for new constructions and additions and fences and driveways. But a lot of the stuff, the B&E guidelines are extremely detailed and have pages and pages of rules and guidelines about existing homes. At one point, I think this may have been changed, but I don't know because the revisions were not provided to us until this weekend. But at one point, even if you were hanging a sunscreen over your door, you would have to come and petition for review. And a lot of these things were items that people do themselves that don't require a permit. And so people will be running afoul of these regulations all the time. I know that the neighborhood has tried to reach out and tell people about it, but the reality is that thousands of property owners in this neighborhood do not know what is about to happen to them or do not understand the implications of what is about to happen. This is not the neighborhood's fault, but the fact remains that it is a fact. This is also, we've got a lot of folks, particularly in my portion of the neighborhood, we got a lot of folks that aren't in great condition. Folks have limited funds to take care of their homes. So a lot of times they can't just repair a little bit here and there every year. They have to wait and save up and do work when they can afford it. And a lot of times the condition has further deteriorated. So you can't repair the wooden window. You have to replace it because by the time you have enough money to do anything, it's too far gone. And again, that's just a reality for many of us who live, particularly on the northern end of the neighborhood. And many of the cases that I listened to today prove how much people in a lot of these historic districts, thank you, don't know about what is called for. And we're very worried about the impact on homeowners' rights, particularly because some of those supporters, including some who've spoken today, have misrepresented what's going on. They've said that in social media, they've said that existing homes would be grandfathered in, or that it's just like what Evergreen Historic or Central Gardens have, both of which are completely not true. And so it's understandable how so many folks, when they start to learn about what this is going to do to them, they're getting upset and they are coming out in opposition. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more opposition?
The final speaker in opposition, Stacy Pennington.
Okay. Stacy, are you on?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. Can you state your name and address?
Yes, Stacy Pennington, 1910 Tutwiler Avenue.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I've been a homeowner in Becca since 2004 and a resident since 1989 with short absences here and there. I have to say I completely agree with the previous speaker. Before we begin, I just wanted to thank the Landmark Commission for providing the extra month to get the word out about this proposal, and I really appreciated the attention and fairness demonstrated by this body during the December meeting. I also want to thank my fellow neighbors on the Becca Historic Committee for their work on this proposal, especially the Appendix C work to make Appendix C clearer regarding what required Landmarks Commission review. I mean, while we still unfortunately disagree on this particular proposal, I appreciate that we're all trying to do what's right and best for Valentine Evergreen. Like the previous speaker, my main opposition to the proposed guidelines is that there is not enough neighbors affected by these guidelines have any idea this is happening. Those that do find out are often not happy about it and would like to have their voices heard. 194 letters and emails of support is not a significant percentage of 3,300 properties affected by these guidelines, especially when several of the letters of support were originated from outside the neighborhood. I mean, I won't go into all the reasons why people aren't paying attention to this proposal, but I think the 1,200 deaths and nearly 5,000 active cases of COVID loom pretty large. People are focused on not getting infected, they're keeping their jobs, or caring for their families, trying to keep their lights on, and they're eagerly waiting for a vaccine. This is not a time to place new obligations and restrictions on current homeowners, especially those folks who don't know these new guidelines are coming. But beyond that point, I just wanted to, when researching this issue, I came across a statistic that really sticks with me and is really relevant. It also speaks to the previous speaker's points. Using tools in the census.gov website, I drew overlays to compare the data between the proposed vector guideline area and the existing Evergreen one. 63% of people in the proposed D&E Landmarks District earn less than $40,000 a year. Shockingly, 26% of our neighbors earn less than $15,000 a year. That's 1/4 of the people that are affected by these guidelines earn less than $15,000 a year. And that only covers people with jobs. It doesn't address people with fixed income or no income at all. I mean, in Evergreen, by comparison, 58% earn more than $40,000 a year. Why is this relevant? The proposed guidelines are written with the goal to protect the architectural features of our historic homes from being undone by unwitting homeowners doing shoddy work or greedy investors flipping a property. In reality, the proposed guidelines will increase the effort and costs of some types of property maintenance, and due to the lower resources of our neighbors, the biggest threat is that little or no work will be done at all on these historic properties, with more of them sliding into disrepair, blight, and abandonment. I remain hopeful that Valentine Evergreen can get a fair and useful landmarks district, but that will only happen when we focus on the true and current areas of risk, new construction, and unnecessary demolition. The guidelines document can be easily amended for this, but so far there's been no interest in that. After the pandemic is over, we can turn our attention we can turn our attention to this, and we can come to agreement, and we can amend the guidelines to reach for what the current homeowners are willing to hold each other accountable to. Anyway, I hope that you will oppose this current proposal. Thank you for your time and gracious consideration.
Okay, are those all the presentations?
Yes, that's end.
Okay. So from here, do we want to, Brett?
Yes. So the applicant has 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay. Do they have someone? Yes,
Go ahead.
Andy, can you answer the questions regarding the design guidelines?
Yes, I think the primary comments related to staff reports indicated that the adjacent neighborhoods rescinded their opposition, and I think that was one of the comments that were made. So both adjacent neighborhood representatives rescinded their opposition. I think also awnings are identified in the guidelines, and awnings are an aperture that's added to a house, just like a just like a a solar panel or a satellite dish, and it is reviewable. We've clarified what's reviewable and what's not in the workflow chart, and it's very clear that whatever requires a building permit, our language is similar. The Shelby County code enforcement for what's required for a building permit. So we've clarified exterior alterations and defined those very similar to the Shelby County code enforcement, so that when a building permit's required, that will trigger the necessary certificate of appropriateness. If there are other questions from the commissioners, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. And I'll make a comment to, this is Karen speaking, regarding engagement. I think the commission sees now that landmarking for VECA has not just didn't start in 2020. It started like really reading all the information from the newsletters. Preservation has been on the heart and soul of VECA since really the 70s. And we started this 4 years ago, and I think in my talk earlier when I presented, we've shown and we went above and beyond to our neighbors about VECA landmarking, and we've done everything according to the bylaws. So I know that there has been talk about people not really knowing about it, but I would disagree with that statement. It's been presented at every single VECA annual meeting since 2016, and at art walks and many, many other events, public events.
Ms. Edwards, you have about 15.
Are there any other questions, concerns from anybody who made a opposing remark?
Let me also add that I think Glenview is a good comparable neighborhood in terms of income for VECA, and Glenview's design guidelines are very similar to what's being proposed, and I'm sure commissioners are familiar with Glenview guidelines in that they cover exterior alterations as well.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to let you know that the applicant's rebuttal time is up. Of course, you can always give more time to each side if you so choose.
Unless they want more, I think that's probably been sufficient. Don't you all think? Think on that. Do we want? Do you want to ask some questions or do the take a motion?
The commissioners can ask any questions if they prefer, or you can move the case to discussion with the motion.
Okay, does anyone want to ask questions of the speakers before we go to a motion? Okay.
This is Commissioner Boyd. I'd like to ask a question, and it's just for clarity on my part. Did I understand that there were several neighborhoods that were in opposition and they've since rescinded their opposition, or were there neighborhoods that were included that are no longer included in this distinction?
I can answer that.
Yes, Commissioner Boyd, I can try to answer that, and if the applicant wants to follow up. But there were some small areas that were originally included in the boundaries, and they were opposed to being included, and they were removed from the boundaries, and so they have since rescinded their opposition because they were removed.
Okay, I thought I heard that, but I wasn't sure.
So roads is not in the boundaries. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And,
that's correct.
Okay, and Palmer Shire, was there any kind of, I know Palmer Shire was mentioned. Brett, did you receive any correspondence from the people in Palmer Shire?
Not that I'm aware of specifically.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may, we received the withdrawal of their opposition letter. And I believe if we go back in the slides, there are 2 slides that include the letters of withdrawal.
Okay.
This is Joy Doff. I have a question. Did we address the earlier question about boundaries? I think it was, I did not write down the street. On the side closest, I guess the North Memphis side. Did we address the question about those boundaries?
What was the question?
It was Miss Moses, I think, that brought up the question of where the boundaries are on that side.
Well, I heard Palmer Shire, and because that's over there by Springdale, and I heard her say something about
Springdale.
That's why I asked about
Springdale.
Palmersdale. Yeah, that's why I asked about Palmer Shire because it's over in that area, and that's why I asked about Jackson. Not Jackson, but University Rhodes College, because I think they thought Rhodes College was still included, but it's not. If you look at the boundary line.
And I know we talked about this in the last meeting, but for the edification of those that are on this call, can we talk about how that the existing or current homeowners aren't affected? They don't have to go back, just reinforce it, they don't have to go back and be in compliance. Is that accurate? Like if you're already there, and something's not in compliance, whatever it is.
We don't. But when you mean compliance, do you mean code?
I mean, code, yes.
Because we don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I might be wrong. We don't enforce code. We enforce if somebody
not
is
code,
changing.
but I mean if it's not within the design guidelines. That's what I'm saying. Not code compliance, but design guidelines. If there's an existing home that has.
Yes, that is correct. That this is not a retroactive to anything that is currently existing.
So it's for new, just for the sake of clarity for everyone else, it's for new construction, and going forward, any exterior alteration.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what we do.
Correct.
So
yes, but I think people did not have a sense of clarity on that. They felt like existing homeowners were going to get slapped with all these bills for repair, and that is a legitimate concern, especially when you have a mixed income neighborhood. So I think people need to be assuaged when it comes to that, and they need to have some clarity on and a comfort level around how this works, and making sure that there's not going to be a gigantic bill that shows up in their mailbox, and this is a checklist of things that they need to do.
Well, that would be like that would be like if they didn't, code enforcement came by and saw things, that would be under their purview, not ours, correct?
Well,
Yes,
code
that's correct.
enforcement doesn't have anything to do with landmark designation, though, right?
So if I could just clarify, this would only apply to anything new moving forward. Does not apply to anything that is currently existing.
Okay.
Okay, is there, any more?
I'm good. How are you? Come on. I thought maybe you weren't coming.
Hello? Is there any more discussion, questions of the speakers? Hello? Hello?
No. None for me. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Can I then have a motion?
So move. This is Commissioner Dawes.
Yeah. Pardon me, I lost some sound just then. What now?
Commissioner Dawes made a motion, and so.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second. This is Brown Gill.
Okay. Do you want to discuss amongst us?
This is Brown Gill. I just have a quick question for Brett. Brett, does OPD have staff? I'm in support of Becca's historic preservation application. So, but does OPD have the staff for these for the workload that's going to come from another historic district?
Well, of course, we have our staff that is currently in place, and every year, of course, our administrator and director put together a budget to support what we believe our caseloads will be. Caseloads have been increasing for various reasons. People may be at home more and doing more home renovations or in the existing historic districts, and this would obviously, it's a pretty clear it would increase that caseload pretty dramatically. So we are looking at that and making, trying to put into the budget some requests for that. We're trying to do things also to still keep all of the appropriate reviews and approvals of items while being as efficient as we can, which is what we always are trying to do. Obviously, in our division, our director and administrator are extremely creative and, really always trying to push us to do that. So that's a little bit of a long answer, but it will definitely be something we have to consider and look at. It's not something we can just take on as we currently are operating and just make it happen. It'll be something we'll have to consider and look at all the options we have and how to accommodate that.
Okay. Thank you, Brett.
And this is Commissioner Love. I actually just wanted to make a statement with regards to some of the concerns dealing with this particular designation. Some of the conversations of what elicited to this even being delayed by another month from our previous meeting in December. And I know it seems that I've heard it stated that it's because there was some sort of negative reflection on obtaining this landmarks designation for this area. And I just wanted to assure many of the participants, and from what they were saying, that that was not really what the conversation was about. It was more so about making that final effort to reach out to those that, as you have noticed, may not have been previously involved in the whole expanse that Becca has been doing to try to reach out to the different entities and different neighborhoods and all of this, that they put forth effort. It was just that let's try to make sure that as many people as possible did in fact get notification of what is being proposed. And from the sounds of it, and we saw from the amendments that had occurred, that there was some results and some positive results, or in some estimations, for others it may be a negative, but for it to be said, things are good. And so I just want to make people understand that this is not a negative thing. It's something we want to have as many people as possible to have a say in what's going on in their neighborhood. And I'm done.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion from the commissioners?
Not any discussion, just a comment. And I appreciate the work that Evergreen Valentine has put into the work that they've done. I like the fact that you're saying you're big, and I applaud you for the work that you've done. And I also like the fact that you are big, okay? Yet there are some sections which have been excluded, such as the African American section. I think it's Cypress Creek, in the Cypress Creek area. And I understand that in our last meeting, Valentine Evergreen Historic District has extended an olive leaf, and I find that it's very commendable that you will assist Cypress Creek in establishing themselves as a historic district. And I hope to see that Cypress Creek will become a historic district in the near future. So I applaud you for all of the work that each of you have put into this, and we welcome you as a historic area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any more comments or discussion from commissioners? Okay, we have a motion. Would anyone like to restate the motion or vote on it?
Yes, Madam Chair, I believe we have a motion just to approve as conditioned by staff, or just as, so if that motion still is, and that's a motion from Commissioner Doss and seconded by Commissioner Gill. So if those still stand, then we can move forward with the vote.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Ms. Payne?
I have to recuse myself from voting because I assisted with this application.
Thank you for reminding me of that. And while we're on that, I will ask Ms. Strong how you vote.
I abstain.
That's correct. Okay. Okay. Yes, thank you. Ms. Boyd?
Yes.
Ms. Doss?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's the last one, correct?
that is the last one, and thank you so much, Madam Chair, for carrying us through this long but very productive meeting.
Okay, any additional announcements, or are we good?
I don't have any announcements.
When's the next meeting date? I don't have that written down.
It is, let me pull it up here, the 25th. Aisha, can you confirm that?
It is February 25th.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So be it.
So move. Second.
Okay, we're done. No gavel.
Okay, great job. Great job.
Thank you all. Thank you, Cindy.